This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
In the Remsen, top of the stretch, to honor and serve. Now been given his cue. Leads by 2 with 1 furlong to go. Mucho Macho Man on the outside's been second throughout. Montown third, the others 2 far behind. Down to the final 6-8. It is to honor and serve. And Mucho Macho Man to honor and serve. He's the real deal here. And won by a length and 3/4.
Marley's Freedom and Come Dancing in a Thriller. Marley's Freedom just in front, and Marley's Freedom closes out an outstanding campaign with a win in the Go for One.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Disposable Pleasure has taken the lead. A remarkable run. Disposable Pleasure and Wildcat Smile. They're coming down to the finish. Disposable Pleasure, Wildcat Smile. Photo finish. Photo finish. Disposable Pleasure ran a terrific race in the Demoiselle.
Mashawish on the outside and Matru. Those two are right together. Totalist is putting in a big late run, and Red Vine is splitting horses. The 4 of them come down to the line. Look like Totalist got there. Totalist with a big late run to win the Cigar Mile.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone, and welcome to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum, and it is all presented by our friends at TwinSpires right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, happy to have you along for the ride right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. On Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. Yeah, old Blue Eyes had it right, didn't he? And before him, Liza Minnelli. The sports stars who have called the Big Apple home are so famous, we don't even need to use their full names, and you know exactly who we're talking about. Ruth, Mantle, Garrick, DiMaggio, Jeter, Mariano, Namath, Manning, Messier, Seaver, Strahan, Ewing, Frazier, and Robinson. And horse racing's stars shine just as bright. Secretariat, Affirmed, Seattle Slew, Kelso, Forgo, Easy Goer, Funny Side, Ruffian, Personal Ensign, Go for Wand, and Cigar. The last 2 remembered today at Aqueduct with races named in their honor. I could spend the full 2-hour show, 3-hour show, rattling through horses who have made New York their home and gone on to incredible Hall of Fame careers. Start spreading the news. 6 horses have used the Remsen Stakes as a stepping stone to winning the Kentucky Derby the following year. Is number 7 among today's 7 juveniles set to line up for the mile and an eighth journey? That would be okay with trainer Eoin Harty, who comes into the Remsen on a bit of a hot streak. He'll saddle Godolphin's poster in the Remsen after winning last weekend's Kentucky Jockey Club with First Resort, and you're going to hear from Eoin coming up in just a few minutes at 8:15 Eastern. He'll talk about that impressive win by First Resort last weekend and look ahead to today's Remsen. How about trainer Rodolphe Brisset? Rodolphe knows a thing or two about that feeling of hitting it big in the Big Apple. His talented son of violence, Mulligan, a winner of the Grade 1 Forgo at Saratoga this summer, returns in today's Cigar Mile, looking to make amends for his third-place finish in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Rodolphe is going to have 2 chances to play the role of King Kong in the Empire State because he also sends out Liam in the Dust in the Demoiselle, and that's the daughter of another New York star, Liam's Map. Rodolphe Brisset will be here at 8:35 Eastern later in hour number 1. If I can make it there, I will make it anywhere. That's what jockey Sheldon Russell and his wife Brittany are hoping when they team up with Cigar Mile contender Post Time. That's a really intriguing race today, and you're going to hear from Sheldon when he joins me at 9 Eastern. He'll talk about having to overcome an outside post. What is his strategy with Post Time? Is he a horse that maybe relishes being in that position later today? And how does he determine where he wants Post Time to be as they run up the backstretch? What goes into that decision-making process? I'm sure Sheldon has looked at the competition. I'm sure he already has a game plan and a plan B and a plan C, like all of the great riders do. But I'll ask him about trying to navigate a winning trip with Post Time, and we'll look back on his impressive run in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile as well. Aron Wellman is the founder of Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, and he is no stranger to the winner's circles of New York. Having campaigned multiple greatest stakes winners, including Belmont winner Taprit, today he hopes his Grade 1 winning 3-year-old Locked can navigate a winning trip against older rivals in the Cigar Mile. Eclipse Thoroughbreds is also really well represented in the featured race at Gulfstream this afternoon, a race named in honor of another icon of New York racing, the late Hall of Famer H. Alan Jerkens. And Wellman has 2 horses entered in that race. I love this. It's a 2-mile turf race being held at Gulfstream today. And Aron will be here at 9:40 to tell me more about that and to share some thoughts. I don't know how much time Aron spent around Alan Jerkens, but anybody who is involved in this game at that level likely crossed paths with the Chief when he was around. And that's a really cool race. 2 miles on the turf. You don't see that very often. Gulfstream, speaking of Gulfstream, they sent out a fantastic piece this week on a gentleman named Eric Messiah, who you probably have never heard of unless you saw that piece. Currently, Eric is working as a valet for jockeys Joe Bravo, Sean Bridgmahan, and Edgar Perez. And if you don't know what a valet is or what a valet does every day at the racetrack, stay tuned because Eric will be here at 9:20 Eastern. And Eric has 2 passions in his life: horse racing, which he's been involved with from a very young age, and steel pan music. And when he comes on at 9:20, you're going to hear his tremendous story. It is something unique. And when I watched that video sent out by Gulfstream this week, I knew immediately I had to reach out to Eric to see if he would join us, and he's very excited to do so. And I'm sure he'll have some awesome stories, not just about the colorful Joe Bravo and Sean Bridgmahan and Edgar Perez, but he's also going to talk about some of the other riders that he's had the privilege of working with over the years. So stay tuned for that. The busy show talking about New York, talking about California, or talking about South Florida. But hour 3 keeps it rolling too. You have Ashley Anderson, who will be here at 10 o'clock Eastern with the TwinSpires Triple Play. She'll give you 3 races you can keep an eye on and bet at TwinSpires this afternoon. All 3, by the way, coming from Aqueduct. Kurt Becker, his Stroll Through Racing History, which is always fantastic. And so many of you reach out to me and say, geez, I love those segments. Well, you can go back and listen to all of them on our website, horseracingradio.net. They're all there for you, archived from the very first one. And this week, Kurt takes you on a stroll through racing history, focusing on Frosty the Snowman, starting to get you in the mood for the holiday spirit here. So looking forward to that story at 10:20. And at 10:30, Dale Roman's Tim Wilkin, the ever-popular segment. I ask, they answer. I'll hit them up with some of the hot topics in the sport today, including what we saw from jockey Paco Lopez this past week. And that was a story that dominated the headlines, and I think rightfully so. the inexcusable behavior after the race, after the horse was pulled up, or as he was pulling the horse up and striking his horse across the neck and face region. Not good. Dale and Tim will weigh in and share their thoughts on that and his suspension and where he goes from here. What does this mean for Paco going forward? He issued an apology on social media, said he was going to take a little time away from horse racing. Don't know what that means. Don't know if he's going to get some help. This is not the first time that we've seen Paco Lopez have issues after a race. So we'll see what this all means for Paco, but Dale and Tim will weigh in on that coming up at 10:30 Eastern, so stay tuned. Poll question today. Who are you taking to win today's Cigar Mile? Give you a few choices here. Mulliken, third last time out in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Bookham Dano, very talented New Jersey bred. Or Post Time. And if you like somebody else in there, if you think it's somebody other than those three, you can choose someone else. That's the fourth choice. But I'm going to ask you, if you do that, to please comment. Let us know who you think is going to win the Cigar Mile other than Mulliken, Bookham Dano, or Post Time. You can go to @HRRN on X to cast your vote. You can do that too, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. If you don't do social media, no problem. I get it. Trust me. Email the show. Mike@horseracingradio.net. Let me know who you think is going to walk away with the top prize after today's Cigar Mile. Guest lineup, Eoin Harty kicks it off in just a few minutes. Rodolphe Brisset will be here right around 8:35 Eastern Time. Sheldon Russell, 9 o'clock. Eric Messiah, 9:20. Aron Wellman, 9:40. 10 o'clock Eastern, the triple play with Ashley Anderson. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History, 10:20. I Ask, They Answer at 10:30. Full show. And it begins right after this here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
His sire is one of the most exciting young stallions in the world. His dam has become one of the most important brood mares in the industry. And on the first Saturday in May, his genetic brilliance shined brightest on racing's biggest stage.
They come into the final 16, and it is going to be Mage to win the Kentucky Derby.
Mage, standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
HRRN is live online. Go to our website at horseracingradio.net to stream all of our broadcasts live or listen to the show archives anytime. Read our blogs, get the latest news, and see our entire broadcast schedule. It's all there at horseracingradio.net. And follow us on Twitter at HRRN and like our page on Facebook. Search Apple Podcasts for HRRN and download our latest shows. HRRN is home to racing's biggest events, and our home on the web is at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
As they race for the top of the stretch, First Resort is up for a short lead. First Resort at the quarter pole, heads for home in front. Dapper Moon is back into second. Tiztastic in behind with Redacted. Jonathan's Way switched outside, and here comes Jonathan's Way. He's running up into second with a furlong to go. First Resort, though, got the jump, and it's clear by 5 with a 16th to go. Jonathan's Way runs out of racetrack. First Resort bounding home. Wins it by 3. Jonathan's Way was second. Tiztastic was third, and it's tight for fourth.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on this Saturday morning. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. That was Travis Stone with the call of last weekend's Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes, and a very impressive victory for the Eoin Harty trained First Resort. Eoin back in action later today with another talented 2-year-old Poster in the Remsen Stakes. 7 horses have come from the Kentucky Jockey Club to wear the roses at Churchill Downs the following spring. 6 horses have won the Remsen on their way to capturing the Kentucky Derby. And I know Eoin would like to have another one in his barn coming up on the first Saturday in May. Eoin is with me now. Eoin, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
First Resort, let's start there. Beautiful win last weekend, huh?
Yeah, it was very impressive. He didn't impress me because I always thought that level of ability was in there, but he impressed others who weren't very familiar with him.
What is it that led you to believe that he had this type of ability in him?
Well, he always showed it from day one. I actually watched him work one morning at Bridlewood Farm before he ever came in. And he worked 3/8 in company, and he was down on the inside, and he did it very easily. So I knew he had some ability. And then once he came to me at Turfway, he just got better and better, and he was very precocious and picked up everything very easily. And usually it turns out that your first runners are your best horses, usually just because they've got this inherent ability. And he was my first runner, and he's proven to be the best 2-year-old I've got.
Yeah, he's a pretty nice horse, and now that he's proven that he can pass that Grade 2 test, where do you go from here? What's his winter look like, Eoin?
I don't know. I've got a lot of options and a lot of time. He's just basically come back to the track for the last couple of days, and he's done well. I'll just watch him, and I'll nominate him everywhere. Pick the best spot for him.
Yeah, the nice thing is he's obviously well-traveled, right? He's run
Exactly.
4 times now at 4 different racetracks. He doesn't need to take his track with him.
Not at all, and he's pretty centrally located. He can go to Aqueduct, Arkansas, Tampa, Louisiana. There's plenty of spots for him, or just stay at home.
He's a son of Uncle Mo. Is there anything about First Resort that reminds you of his sire?
Well, I wasn't around Uncle Mo, but I was around Indian Charlie, who's the sire of Uncle Mo, and he is very, very similar to him.
To have a horse like First Resort win at 1 1/16 this time of year is great because it's proven that he can handle that distance. Now the distances will get longer with the future prep races. How much of a feather in his cap is that to know that, okay, he passed that test successfully?
Well, that not only that feather, but the fact that he did it at Churchill stands to a lot. When I worked for Bob, we had Real Quiet, and we brought him back for the same race. And he didn't win it. He ran second, but he ran very well, and he gave us a lot of confidence coming back there in the spring.
Yeah, and of course he is owned by Godolphin, and Godolphin has had so much success in the sport for so many years. It's got to be great to train for an operation like that, Eoin.
It is. It's the top of the pyramid, I must say. It's a fantastic organization. It's filled with fantastic people who do a great job every day. Just you couldn't ask for better. Absolutely. The pedigree's in there, the ability is in there. Combined with that pedigree, you have a shot.
You have a chance to win on consecutive weekends. You have a chance to win greatest stakes races for Godolphin because Poster, a very talented 2-year-old son of Munnings, is set to go in the Remsen Stakes in New York later today. So tell me about Poster.
Poster's a good horse, very good. I don't think he's as talented as First Resort, but he hopefully will prove me wrong. He's a very big horse, very attractive horse. I don't think he'll have distance limitations simply because of his size and his pedigree. It's whether he's fast enough. He's never run on the dirt, but he's certainly trained a lot on the dirt prior to coming to me. And it seems like training at Turfway Park, it just preps you for just about anything.
Yeah. What are the things that you've seen in him when he does train on the dirt, when you've gone back and watched some of those workouts?
Well, I haven't seen him work on the dirt because I've trained at Turfway and it's a synthetic surface.
Yeah.
But I've known for many years that you don't have to prep on dirt to run on dirt. You can prep equally successfully on synthetic and run on dirt. What's impressed me most about him, rather than anything else, is he seems to show more in the afternoons than he shows in the morning. And in both his races, he's shown improvement. He's done enough and a little more to get the job done. And if he could do that again today, I think he'll be in the thick of it.
Oh, and you're no stranger to having a good 2-year-old in your barn and developing them into top 3-year-olds. You've proven that, that's something you can do. You've done it for your whole career. What's the key for Eoin Harty getting these young horses ready and getting them built up so that they're ready to peak on the first Saturday in May if they get there?
I think the key is inherent ability. I can't put in what the good Lord left out, but if it's in there, I can certainly try and nurture it along the way. I really don't know. I think you just got to watch your horse and know your horse, and you've got to be extremely lucky. There can't be any hiccups. So if there is a little hiccup, you've got to be aware of it and address it immediately before it becomes a big problem. Like, you kind of put me on the spot there, but I would come with those quick answers.
Yeah. I mean, it would seem, considering all of your success, that, and I don't know if trainers have a philosophy or approach when it comes to working with 2-year-olds, or if it's just, as you said, just the ability that the horse has, and you work with what you have.
Correct. And it's the most satisfying part of the job is getting 2-year-olds and figuring out if they can run or not, and if they can run, then just getting the best out of them. I think if I couldn't train 2-year-olds, I probably wouldn't train.
Are there any other 2-year-olds in the Eoin Harty barn that we should be looking for as we make our way across the next few months?
Well, I ran a very good filly the other night at Turfway. She was very unlucky not to win. She drew the wide outside, which is difficult to overcome going a mile at Turfway. A filly called Golden Sunshine. I think she's just got unlimited talent. I wouldn't be surprised at some point in the future. She was a major black type winner. And then another filly I ran on Sunday at Churchill, a filly called Verity. She's a beautiful filly, tons of talent. I trained her mother. Her mother was extremely talented. And there too, I think I'm pretty much out of bullets with the colts, but those two fillies are really looking forward to getting the best out of those two.
You mentioned training at Turfway and racing at Turfway. That's a synthetic surface, and then horses move on to the main track. And, Eoin, we've always heard, it's hard to go from synthetic. If they look good on synthetic, they don't always handle the main track as well. But you've proven that that's really kind of inconsequential.
I would say a good horse handles anything. I know with when I had Colonel John, he ran in the Kentucky Derby, and he ran a good race. He was got into some traffic trouble early on, and he went back to California, which was all synthetic at the time, and he never set foot on dirt again until he won the Travers, and that was a hell of a race. I mean, he had to overcome all sorts of traffic trouble and adversity, and he won. So I don't believe that's the case. I think if the horse is good enough, he'll overcome it.
Well, you've got a couple of good ones there with your 2-year-olds and some good 2-year-old fillies, too. So, Eoin, I know you're busy this morning. I'll let you go do your job, but I really appreciate a few minutes, my friend.
All right, guys. Sorry about the background noise. I'm in the airport in Tampa heading for New York.
Oh, no problem. Good luck.
Thanks, guys. Good talking to you.
All right, Eoin Harty here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Yeah, he's probably getting ready to board that plane right now. You heard the announcement in the background. First Resort, to me, okay, Jude Feld and I, when we were doing the show together, would always talk about reading between the lines when you're talking to trainers. And so many times over the years, we picked up on signals with the way that a trainer talks about a certain horse and just their tone. And you can tell that First Resort, if you're going to pick the favorite child, First Resort is his favorite 2-year-old right now. He came out and said he's the most talented 2-year-old in this barn. And as good as Poster has been in his first 2 tries, both of those have been on the turf where the pace is typically slower. He sat beautiful trips. His first race, he goes to the front and draws off and wins. The second race, he sits just off the pace in the catbird position and draws away to win. So he's done nothing wrong, but you heard Eoin say the question is he fast enough? And I think that's what you worry about there. But if he takes to the dirt, then he could be He could be in the mix in that race later today. He's 5-1 on the morning line in the Remsen. And by the way, in case you're wondering about the Remsen, post time is 2:36 Eastern, 11:36 for those of you tuned in out west. 1 1/8 on the main track. That's another unknown for these young 2-year-olds. How do they handle the extra distance? You heard me ask Owen about First Resort passing his 1 1/16 test, and Owen said, more significantly, it was at Churchill Downs. And I thought that was a little interesting because typically trainers will shy away from that. They'll say, well, yeah, it's nice that it was at Churchill, but it was at Churchill at the end of November. And if we get back to Churchill on the first Saturday in May, that's a completely different racetrack. We all know that. The track that First Resort just won over, in name, will be the same racetrack, but the surface itself will be completely different. But yes, I think the fact that he handled it, meaning Churchill Downs and that main track, is a check mark in his favor. Should we be looking at First Resort as one of the leading Kentucky Derby contenders at this point? I don't know. He was good, but I don't know. And, we talk about with college football, for example. It's a big thing to throw around the term style points, right? A team can be undefeated, but maybe they have eked out a couple of victories and it's been workmanlike. It hasn't been brilliant, flashy blowout wins. But yet they're still undefeated. Do we look at that team the same as another team who just demolishes the competition every time they go out there? Probably not. I think sometimes those teams get disrespected. And I don't think First Resort was good. He probably wasn't as flashy as some of the other 2-year-old winners that we've seen throughout the year. But it doesn't mean he won't be. Doesn't mean that he's not going to turn out to be the best of the entire crop. We don't know yet. And that's the beauty of this road to the Kentucky Derby. And sitting here trying to break out the crystal ball and determine where it's going to go from here and who's going to develop into that next tier legitimate Kentucky Derby contender and not a pretender. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I told you about the horses, 7 horses coming from the Kentucky Jockey Club that eventually went on to win the Kentucky Derby. If you know the last horse to do so, to race in the Kentucky Jockey Club, doesn't necessarily have to be to win it, although I'll give you a hint, this horse did. Won the Kentucky Jockey Club, won the Kentucky Derby the following year. If you know who that horse is, shoot me an email. Let's see who gets it right. The last horse to win the Kentucky Jockey Club and then go on and win the Kentucky Derby. Mike at horseracingradio.net or post it on our social media pages at HRRN on X, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and let me know your thoughts on that one. Let's see how many of you get that one correct. Coming up next, I will continue my conversation about the big races up in New York. I'll do it with trainer Rodolphe Brisset, who sends out Mulliken in the Cigar Mile and a pretty talented filly in the Demoiselle. We'll talk about that next, right after this short break, and this week's edition of your Legends of the Turf.
On Sunday afternoon, October 28, 1973, 40,000-plus fans turned out at Toronto's Woodbine Racecourse in somewhat less than auspicious weather to witness the 36th renewal of one of North America's premier racing events. It was the Canadian International Championship Stakes over 1 5/8 miles on the grass. The object of all the attention in the race was the Meadow Stables Secretariat, who'd amassed a record of 15 wins in 20 starts going into the event. He was the American Triple Crown winner, having been the first to accomplish that feat since Citation in 1948, had set 3 track records, a course record, and 2 world records, and he was unscathed on the greenery. He had been Horse of the Year at 2 and was being mentioned in the same breath as the legendary Man o' War in terms of ability. There was a genuine feeling of excitement surrounding his appearance in the International. His owner, Penny Tweedy, and his conditioner, Lucien Lauren, had selected this race over the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and the Washington, D.C. International for this particular start. On this championship day, people were lined up 3 deep along every path he took to catch but a fleeting glimpse of this marvelous thoroughbred who had been bemonikered Big Red, the same as the aforementioned Man o' War. There were 11 other horses entered in the race, which brought the net worth to the winner to a rather tidy $92,000 plus. The reasons for the competition were, first, that Secretariat's regular rider, Ronnie Turcotte, was not to be in the saddle. He had received a 5-day suspension in New York, which precluded his availability as reinsman aboard Big Red. Eddie Maple drew the riding assignment, and he had been accustomed to riding Riva Ridge, Secretariat's stablemate. Secondly, the turf at Woodbine was softer and more dense than at Belmont, where Secretariat had great success on the grass. At post time, the weather conditions turned abominable, from a slight drizzle to a light sleet. Late on that Sunday afternoon, Kennedy Road went on out to set the early fractions and continued in the van after the first mile, setting fractions of 47-2 for the half, 137-3 for the mile. That was all she wrote, so to speak. Secretariat, the big golden chestnut, was set down by Maple and literally exploded in typical Secretariat fashion, zooming to the front going into the last of 3 turns. He led by 3, then by 4, then by 6, and then by 12 open lengths, leaving a totally demolished quality field of thoroughbreds in his wake. At the furlong marker, Maple eased up on the big colt and allowed him to waltz home the easiest kind of winner by 6 open lengths in a final time of 2:44.4, that time being only 4 ticks off the track record, and this in spite of being eased up, so to speak, at the end. With a $92,000 plus winner share of the purse, he pushed his career earnings to a new all-time single-season mark of $860,000 and surpassed the great Damascus's mark in so doing. He also became the 4th greatest money winner of all time, trailing only Kelso, Round Table, and Buckpasser. It all happened on a meteorically, so to speak, miserable day before 40,000 plus racing fans at Woodbine in Canada, Sunday, October 28th, 1973, in the Canadian International. A truly great performance and indeed a great moment in thoroughbred racing.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
A 2-time Grade 1 winner at Saratoga with nearly $2.5 million in earnings, and one of the best sons of Super Sire, Gunrunner.
And it is Gunite, and he's going to win the 117th running of the hopeful.
Gunite is maintaining the lead, and he will defeat Elite Power in the Forgo.
Gunite posted 9 triple-digit buyers, won 9 races, and hit the board in 19 of 21 starts. Precocious, fast, durable, and tough. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare.
The championship meet is back at Gulfstream Park. Come to Hallandale Beach and experience the best in live racing action Thursday through Sunday, plus an expanded event schedule. Join us trackside at the Carousel Club or head upstairs to 10 Palms Restaurant with an elevated view of the track. Enjoy the world's best horses, trainers, and jockeys as they compete all winter long. For stake schedules, reservations, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're at the top of the stretch. and Mulligan turns for home, full of run, 3-length lead. Gun Pilot tips out to try and get to him in second. They're in the final furlong, and Mulligan with powerful strides has built it up to 4. Gun Pilot is no match. Neither are any of the others. Mulligan outclasses them in the forego, wins it by almost 6 lengths. Gun Pilot was second. Anchor third. Cagliostro started picking it up late.
If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. That's what Mulligan did. He made it there. In the Grade 1 Forgo at Saratoga, Frank Miramati had the call. An impressive win that led him into the Breeders' Cup Sprint, where he finished third last time out. Today, he's back in the Big Apple, looking to make some news in the Cigar Mile. He's looking to add that one to his impressive resume. He's been very, very good throughout his entire career, and nobody knows that better than trainer Rodolphe Brisset, who joins me now here on the Equine Forum. Rodolphe, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, good. As you were listening to that call, I know you and I had a conversation right after he won that race. It was a special win for you, your family, and for the team. As you were listening to the call from Frank Miramati, what was going through your mind?
Well, I mean, it's obviously good, very good memories, and it's always good to see those moments and to remind those moments. But we are here to create a new one, so that's what it's all about.
I can tell you this. I asked all of our listeners this morning in our poll question, who is their pick to win today's Cigar Mile? And so far, 40% of the votes coming in your favor, looking at Mulligan as the winner. As a matter of fact, I've actually had several listeners email the program, and Rick in Delaware says he thinks Flavien Prat gets it done with Mulligan later today. So you're getting a lot of support, my friend.
Well, I mean, it's, the horse getting a lot of support first, I guess, and then it looks like it's if he's doing good, it's the right spot to be in, and we will see later today what if he was the right move or not.
What are your thoughts on what we saw in the Breeders' Cup Sprint from him?
Well, I mean, he ran really good. Obviously we were maybe a little surprised where we were sitting. I thought we were going to be a little closer from the pace. We got a little further back than what we want, and obviously, when he took him wide, and he make his run, and looks like he finished with good energy, and he was closing on the first two, and then looks like he got up out very strong. So maybe I mean it's a championship, and you're running against all the best, and so we were. At first maybe a little disappointed that we didn't win, but then you gotta back up yourself a little bit and look at the big picture. And he did run a good race, and we were asking to cut back to a 6 furlong where we were. I thought that was totally fine, and he proved it that was fine, but maybe he's more 7-8 specialist, and hopefully after today we can even have a new distance for him going a mile.
Yeah, and this 1 mile at Aqueduct is a 1-turn mile, so he doesn't have to worry about going around 2 turns. It's basically an elongated sprint. What have you done with him over the past several weeks since the Breeders' Cup to make sure he's ready for another peak effort?
Well, we haven't done much different than what we do. Obviously the monitoring him was the main thing. We are going from one coast to another coast on 6 weeks, so you do have to make sure they handle the trip. He's such a layback and super cool horse. We saw where we need to see energy wise and weight wise, and obviously moving well. So all those signs were good. We came back with one breeze, was very good. We got a little bit of weather in the middle, so we didn't come back at 7 days. I think we breathed at 12 days, but his 6 furlong last week was pretty impressive, and that gave us the confidence to enter and be here today.
Yeah, there's a handicapping philosophy out there, Rodolphe, that says horses that come in their next start after the Breeders' Cup, they're vulnerable because the connections make sure that they're ready to peak and have them ready for a peak performance on Breeders' Cup Day, and it's difficult to get them back up to that level again in their next start. Doesn't sound to me like you subscribe to that theory, though.
Well, what about the winner last year? I thought the winner last year looked some kind of good when he crossed the wire in the Cigar Mile, and he was in a sprint 5 weeks earlier. So yeah, of course, I can see what they mean when they say that. But we spend every day with them. If all the signs, it's all about signs, and you like I say, you spend so much time with them, you know if the horse is on the down or on the up, So I mean, yeah, it's a little risky. It's maybe something you don't do, you don't try every year, but with the right horse at the right time, I'm very comfortable about it.
You were talking about the trip you got in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. You said you were surprised to see yourself further back. You thought you might be up closer. A good break today. He gets right up in the race. Is that the strategy?
I mean, it's up to him and Flav. We're not gonna. We're not gonna. I think everybody know what my mentality is on the dirt, and I'm. We usually pretty not aggressive, but we like to be forwardly placed and then go from there. So I mean, after that, you have nothing else I can do. It's up to the horse and Flav. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we break clean and then go from there.
I can't imagine there's a whole lot of conversation taking place between you and Flavien before the race. He knows the horse. He's among, if not the top rider in the game today. How does that work when people are watching you and Flavien in the paddock before the race? What are you talking about, if anything?
We talk about where we had dinner the night before, if it was a good place or not. No, I mean on the serious note. No, I mean just a couple reminder. They rode so many horses, so you even obviously if you ride back a Grade 1 winner, you usually remember of the horse, but you just want to make sure you remind, stay with the pony, or just watching a gate, make sure he's in the right position, but from all around you don't talk about a lot of things. They know their job, and even more when they know the horse.
The race before the Cigar Mile is the Grade 2 Demoiselle, and you're going to send out Liam in the dust. Once again, Flavien Prat is your man in the saddle. Tell me about Liam in the dust in this one.
Well, we like her. She got a couple points already for the Hawks. She's, I think, she ranked in top 2 of my fillies, 2 years old. I think Impulse Buyer, who won the stakes last week, going 6.5, maybe the other one. So we think highly of her. Obviously she's got 3 place already. I told other radio show and press through the line to the Grade 1 in Keeneland. You gotta pass this and forget about it. All around, she hasn't done nothing wrong, and today will be a test against Mahima again, but. We just feel like it's gonna give us a very good indication of what to do next. So, we were lucky enough to win the Demoiselle a couple of years ago with a filly named Positive Spirit. So, we were coming with 1, so we bring 3.
Yeah, why not, right? Why just ship 1 on the van? You got to bring Liam in the dust, too. And she is a daughter of Liam's Map, and I referenced at the top of the show that Liam's Map is a horse that had a ton of success in New York, and it would be cool to see Liam in the dust kind of continue that lineage, if you will. Yeah,
I remember him. He was a kind of front runner, and he's done. He won a couple of Grade 1 in New York, and we will see what happens. We have to obviously face the 45 morning line favorite, and looks like a very nice filly, but we're not scared of sticking on anything.
You do have one more coming up tomorrow at Aqueduct in the Garland of Roses. You said we'll bring 3. That's Mystic Pleasure. Tell me a little bit more about Mystic Pleasure.
She's one of my favorites. We were very lucky. We find her last year at the Keeneland January sale, and I was able to have one of my owners, the buyer, and we bought her as a broodmare prospect first, but we said we got to give it a try as a racehorse, and obviously she's made over $350,000 this year and multiple stakes place, and I did make a couple mistakes, try to run her a little longer than what she wants, but it looks like she find her niche since we cut her back to a sprint race, and she's supposed to have a date with Justify next year. So the goal is to try to win a stakes. I think tomorrow it's a good spot for her, and hopefully a clean trip again, and then we see what happens.
You know, Rodolphe, by the way, Rodolphe Brisset joining me here on the Equine Forum on HRRN. Listening to these conversations we're having about, you know, a horse like Mulligan, who is a sprinter, maybe stretching out, or he is stretching out to a mile today. Maybe he's successful there too. We're talking about 2-year-old fillies. We're talking about older mares. You have such a talent for training all different types of horses, and I guess if you're going to be a trainer, you have to be able to do that. Is your approach different when you're working with a young horse like Liam in the Dust as opposed to, you know, an older horse or a sprinter? Does it change based on the age of the horse and what the horse wants to do?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you have to read those 2 years old. You have to, you know, they have to show you what they want to do. They don't talk. So, you know, it's really our main job is at 2 years old is to really try to see what they want to do, what kind of level, what kind of distance, what kind of surface, and then from that you learn how they are, and if you get the best of them knowing on what you're doing, obviously when they come back at 3 and 4, it's a little easier because you know the horse, so you know what the horse is going to want to do, you know where you at physically, fitness wise, and then you can, you know, it gets a little easier, of course. So the really important part, I would say, is the first 8 months when they're 2, and obviously if they get hurt and you can't read that long enough, you bring them back at 3 and you do the same process just a year later, you know. So yeah, it's not a big difference, but you do have to read those 2 years old a little bit more.
You mentioned Impulse Buy, who won the Fern Creek Stakes at Churchill last weekend, and before that was second in the Tempted. She's yet to run a bad race in her 4 outings. What is it that impresses you most about Impulse Buy?
Well, I mean, the other day was very impressive. That move in the turn was impressive. Now, you know, obviously she was going forward, but at the same time, I think the hot pace in front can make the horses coming back to her too. So, you know, when you combine this at the same time, it really looked like she was, you know, making a huge move. She did it, and then went by those horses and won going away. So, you know, I mean, Impulse Buy will be, actually, to answer your question, your last question, Impulse Buy may be the best example because, you know, we lucky enough been training for WinStar for a couple of years now, and we know the family, and that Impulse Buy looked like she wants to go 2-turn all day long, and physically she looked like a 2-turn horse. And knowing the family, we won't try because we know she wants the actually sprinter. And so if you don't know those things, that's where you can make a mistake and then run them in the wrong spot.
You know, Owen Harty was on in the previous segment. I asked him about training for an organization like Godolphin, and now you mentioned WinStar. I'm a massive fan of Elliot Walden and the team at WinStar. I've known Elliot for many, many, many years, even before I was doing radio. What's it like being associated with an organization like WinStar?
Well, I mean, first of all, you know, if you want to go through, you got to have those people behind you too, and you got to do the best job you can. And you know, between Elliot and the whole WinStar team, I got lucky enough where I even trained there too, so I know everybody over there, and we actually use WinStar ourselves for everything. We have client horses going there. We break. We do everything with them in general, and you know, it's 10 minutes from my farm. It's 10 minutes from Keeneland, so you get the top service, and those horses get the best care possible when they get to their break or their layup, and then you know where you at when they come back. So yeah, you know, it's a lot of horsemanship, you know, highly recommended horsemanship, and yeah, it's a pleasure, and he makes my life easier.
I know you have to go, Rodolphe. I know you're busy working, so I won't keep you much longer, but I do have one more question. When you kind of following up on what you're talking about with WinStar, a horse like Mulligan, when you decide to go in a race like today's Cigar Mile after running in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, you talked about the workouts and what you saw in the mornings, and you said that is what gave you the confidence to go here. But how does the decision-making process work between you and WinStar? Are they letting you just make the call, or is it a back and forth type of conversation? How does it work?
So literally we work as a team. Obviously, ideas can be talked, and we can come up with some plan and what we want to do. But I mean, at the end of the day, I have to give it credit to Elias, because at the end of the day, I make the last decision, and obviously I better make the right one. But they've been supporting us since day one, and I put pressure on myself because I have to do good for them, and it's been a great 7 years, and hopefully we can keep going. And if I have to recall, I think for all those years, I think one time Elliot called me and he said let's not do that, but let's do that, and that was for Quip, and I understand why, and that was very smart. And we scratched out of a grade 2, and we went in a grade 1, and then the horse got second in a grade 1, and they tried to make stallion, and that was the whole idea. The whole idea was to win a grade 1, and that was the right move. So it's a teamwork, and I obviously you got to be successful, but it's at the end of the day, we talk about it and make decisions, but usually I'm the one making the last call.
Trainer Rodolphe Brisset here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. 251 victories to his credit coming into today. He's going to look to add to his impressive resume coming up in the Cigar Mile and the Demoiselle. Rodolphe, appreciate the visit as always. Good luck this weekend and going forward with all your horses.
Well, thank you for having me, and then have a Merry Christmas to you and your family.
You too, my friend. Rodolphe Brisset here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. That conversation, the last question I asked him when he's talking about making the decision, and I ask that question quite often because I think with every relationship, trainer-owner relationship, it's different. It's different. Some owners just say, okay, let's just leave it up to the trainer. But when you're an operation like a Godolphin or a WinStar or Juddmonte or any of these top operations that have been there, done that at the highest levels, I think you probably want a little more input because you know what works and you trust your trainer and you trust the information you get back from them. But Rodolphe's saying they pretty much let me make the call, and I better make the right call. If he wants to keep training for them, he better continue to make the right call. And he's done that enough where here he is in this position today with a horse like Mulligan, he is your choice, HRRN Nation's choice, to win the Cigar Mile. I'm going to update the poll question and some of the email responses coming up in just a few minutes, but he's also an ultra-talented runner, probably going to go postward as the favorite in that race later today. Should be a good one coming up at Aqueduct. All right, when I come back, I will update the poll question. I'll get you ready for hour number 2 and tell you what's ahead in hour 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Matthew.
There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment. Email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense. I'm 54, so basically, it's too late to start saving for retirement, right?
Not right. Starting to save, even in your 50s, can really make a difference.
Well, right now, saving seems hard to wrap my head around. Plus, with the way this year's been going...
Hey, listen, it's okay. You still got this. Just go to aceyourretirement.org. It's an online tool from AARP that can help you get your retirement savings on track no matter your age. It's free and only takes about 3 minutes.
I like 3 minutes.
Yeah, at aceyourretirement.org, you'll chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer a few questions and you'll get a personalized plan and tips to help boost your retirement savings. Tips that are easy to understand and tailored to your lifestyle.
I like that too.
Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back. Just head to aceyourretirement.org and make your plan to start saving for retirement.
Thanks.
That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Super Chow ready to sprint for home as they approach a quarter mile left to go. Hugging that rail is Matty Over, and now Super Chow is trying to kick away. It's Super Chow who's straightening up. What does Super Chow have left? Castle Chaos is making up ground, and here comes Post Time on the grandstand side. Super Chow drifting like he does. Here comes Post Time to the outside, and Castle Chaos, the one hugging the rail, drifting out there. Super Chow. Post Time to the outside. Castle Chaos down to the inside, down to these two. Post Time. Post Time got up, and the final stage is over. Castle Chaos, Super Chow, and Whittington Park in 1 minute 24 seconds flat.
Yeah, Post Time did it. He's a really, really talented horse, and he's looking to do it again in today's Cigar Mile under Jockey Sheldon Russell for trainer Brittany Russell, his wife. Sheldon's set to join me in just a few minutes, 9 o'clock Eastern. Looking forward to catching up with him. He's one of the really cool guys in thoroughbred racing, and pretty good rider, too. I told you about the poll question here this morning. I'll update that in just a couple of minutes. Also want to pass along this note. If you want more conversation about the Remsen Stakes, all you have to do is head back to our website, check out my Trainer Talk Show presented by Fasig-Tipton from this past Wednesday. I spent an hour, a really entertaining hour, with Chuck Lawrence. He goes by James Lawrence II in the program, but Chuck is his nickname, named after the family cat, Charlie. And I think you'll enjoy that conversation with Chuck Lawrence. He's getting ready to saddle Surfside Moon in this afternoon's Remsen Stakes, and we had a chance to catch up and talk about the Pennsylvania-bred filly, the Pennsylvania-bred colt, Remsen for the boys, the Pennsylvania-bred colt, and I think that you're really going to enjoy that conversation, so head back and check it out. And by the way, speaking of Fasig-Tipton, the bidding is now open for the Fasig-Tipton digital sale, and this is a concept that Fasig-Tipton launched a while back, doing digital sales, and the December digital sale is actually their largest catalog. 670 entries were cataloged for that sale, and the catalog includes, how about this, more than 400 broodmares and broodmare prospects, 120 horses of racing age, 70 weanlings, and 50 yearlings. 120 covering sires are represented, including American Pharaoh, Cody's Wish, Complexity, Constitution, Elite Power, and so much more. So you can check it all out at digital.fasigtipton.com. Bidding continues until Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, at 12 p.m. Eastern for hips 1 through 305. And on Wednesday, beginning at 12 p.m., hips 306 to the end. So check it all out, digital.fasigtipton.com, and the largest digital sale to date. These have really been incredibly successful for the team at Fasig, and appreciate their support of Trainer Talk each and every year and every week, and I hope you enjoy those programs. But check that one out with Chuck Lawrence. All right, I mentioned before I get to Sheldon Russell, and I'll tell you what's ahead in hour number 2 and hour number 3, but I mentioned the poll question for you here this morning, and several of you taking time to email the show and let me know your thoughts there. I mentioned Rick in Delaware is on board with Mulligan in today's Cigar Mile. Tom in St. Louis says that the distance for Mulligan and Bookham Dano is a concern, and he would have thought that Senor Buscador is an average horse who had it all come together one day in a land far, far away. So, I don't know. Tom, who are you going with here, buddy? Post Time. Looks like he's going with Post Time as his top pick in there. I don't know. A lot of stuff in that email, Tom, but keep them coming. Let me know your thoughts, your pick to win today's Cigar Mile at Aqueduct. Who's it going to be? And on social media, you can go to X/Twitter and let me know your thoughts there. Mulligan getting 40% of the vote. No, check that. Mulligan down to 27% of the vote now. Post Time at 27%. They're tied. Bookham Dano with 23%. And the someone else category at 23%. Satch says that it will be Pratt wiring the field in a laugher. And Laura says, I like the turn back for Senor Buscador, along with the fact that Rosario gets the mount. Sound handicapping logic there. Appreciate that, Laura. Keep those coming. Let me know your thoughts. Who wins today's Cigar Mile at Aqueduct? I did throw out a quick trivia question, too, just for some fun here this morning, asking you the last horse to win both the Kentucky Jockey Club and the Kentucky Derby. And a few of you getting it right. It was Super Saver in 2010 who won the Kentucky Jockey Club, came back the following year to win the Kentucky Derby for trainer Todd Pletcher. How about the Remsen? I mentioned 6 horses have come from the Remsen. This one's a little trickier, I think. Who was the last horse to win the Remsen and then capture the Kentucky Derby the following year? Who was the last horse? And I think I said Super Saver won the Kentucky Jockey Club in 2010. He won the Derby in 2010, of course. But who was the last horse to win the Remsen and then take the Kentucky Derby the following year? You can email the show, Mike at horseracingradio.net. Hit us up on social media, too, at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and let me know the answer to that one. Hour 2 comes up next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
1 hour down, 2 to go here on this week's edition of the Equine Forum, all presented by our friends at TwinSpires. The focus is on New York. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. That's what Frank Sinatra had to say, and before him, Liza Minnelli. Sheldon Russell is hoping he'll be able to make it there as he gets aboard Post Time in the Cigar Mile later today. But listen, Sheldon's had success everywhere he's gone, and no doubt he's on a live horse later today. We'll see if he can overcome the outside post. I'll talk to Sheldon momentarily about his strategy there. Coming up at 9:20, you'll hear from Eric Messiah, who is a valet at Gulfstream Park, working with Joe Bravo, Sean Bridgemahan, and others. You'll get a chance to hear from Eric Messiah and his story. It's really fantastic, and he'll tell you exactly what a valet does day in and day out at the racetrack. Aron Wellman of Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. He's in New York getting ready to watch Locked in today's Cigar Mile. He also has 2 horses in the H. Allen Jerkens Stakes down at Gulfstream. So we'll talk to Aron at 9:40. 10 o'clock Eastern, the TwinSpires Triple Play with Ashley Anderson. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History with a story about a horse named Frosty the Snowman. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. If you missed any portion of the first hour of the show, my conversations with Eoin Harty or Rodolphe Brisset, head back to our website, horseracingradio.net, to check out the podcast, and you can do that too on every podcast platform, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, iHeart, however you get your podcast. Type in Horse Racing Radio Network and follow along with this show and all of our shows. Well, I've been telling you Sheldon Russell would be here at 9 o'clock. He is here with me now. Sheldon, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. How are you today?
Doing really well. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. We're up here getting ready to get ready and head on to the room.
Yeah, should be a good one today. I've been talking about Post Time and how good he has been. I also talked about the fact, that he's breaking from the outside post number 11. Now, at Aqueduct, it's a one-turn mile race. So you come out, you run up the backstretch, make that one turn into the stretch. Tell me about your approach when you're looking at this race and riding Post Time from the outside post.
He's always been, he's pretty much an easy horse for me to ride. Look, I don't have to sort of be in any hurry to sort of get him in position. I think I have a good, half a mile before we reach the turn. So I'll just be sort of taking my time. Hopefully, we have some speed in front of us that go on, and by the time we get to the turn, I could sort of slot him in and just hopefully be following the right horse.
He seems like a horse that is adaptable to any pace scenario. If it's fast, he'll come from further back. If it's a slow pace, he can be further up. Do you agree with that?
Correct. In that sense, I think he's a very smart horse. Yeah, like he sort of gauges whether they're going fast enough up front, and if they're not, he'll sit closer. But if they're going fast, then he'll sort of just drop back a little bit. He's smart and makes my job a lot easier to ride.
I played the call earlier, Post Time winning the Carter at Aqueduct back on April 6th. That was a really impressive effort from him. He gave you everything he had. He got up and won by a neck. Look back on that race for me for a minute.
Yeah, just a very game win. Look, there wasn't many runners that day. Obviously, we had known the horse in front had some tendencies to drift. The pace wasn't lightning fast that day, so he sat closer that day. And it's always harder when you ride in smaller fields because it sort of turns into sort of like a tactical race. So I had him closer. Look, I thought I could get past the front runner before he started drifting, and I just couldn't, and I just got drifted out to the middle of the track. But fair play to him. He put his head down, and, he was very game to get that win.
How long does it take you after the gates open to know if Post Time is on his A game, if he's ready to run a big race that afternoon?
I'd say I get like a sort of a rough idea because he's one that doesn't really warm up with the pony. So I get a good feel of him in the post-parade. I'll give him a good gallop. And, he's a good-feeling horse. So it would be hard for me to sort of tell you if he was ready or not because he's always feeling good.
How come he doesn't warm up with the pony?
It's just one of those things. We've just sort of never really had him with the pony. Even at a young age, he was just sort of a bit boisterous and, wanting to play a little bit. So it was never something we could get him used to.
His last race in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile was excellent. He came flying from far back, and you end up second, beaten just a length and a half. Walk me through that race, Sheldon.
Yeah, just an awesome experience. Just an awesome race. Everything sort of worked out. Like we got a good pace to run out. He had relaxed nicely for me. We got the splits when we needed to, and he made a huge run. Look, the winners ran a huge race, but, fair play to Post Time. We had to fly him out there. I know a lot of people had to fly out there, but, he hasn't really missed a beat. We went out there hoping that he would run that race, and he's done us proud.
He's trained by your wife, Brittany. Tell me how good of a training job she's done with this horse.
I think she's done a great job. Look, I don't get to sit on him in the morning. That he has his own sort of exercise riding. It's actually Brittany's assistant, Emma. So, full credit to Emma as well because she does all his work. She gallops him. So she's a huge key in the operation. So I feel like there's two of them. Brittany trains him and Emma rides him, and I just get to ride him in the races. So
yeah, well,
she doesn't let me sit on him in the mornings. She don't trust me.
Hey, you know what? It's a team effort. It takes a village, and it sounds like you guys have the formula worked out now. But she gives a leg up to you in the afternoons. And listen, she's not giving a leg up to a bug boy, right? You've been here. You've done that. 1,691 wins in your career. You don't get that many wins, Sheldon, without knowing what you're doing in the saddle, my friend.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a long road. Look, he's the best horse I've ever rode. So for me to be riding him right now, I'm very privileged. And thank you very much to Alan Charles for giving me this opportunity. Look, we hope he runs good today, but he's been awesome to be around, and he's a great horse. So hopefully he shows up today. We're all very excited, and we can't wait to see him run today.
How cool is it to be able to celebrate his big wins alongside your wife?
Yeah, it's really nice. And it was also, I'll tell you one thing, it was really nice because when he flew out there to California, we were able to take my mom and our two kids. So it's a big family affair. Our kids love him, so it's really cool. I'm sure they'll be watching there in Maryland today. So
has she ever had to get on you?
Because when he wins, I feel like everybody wins.
Has she ever had to get on you after the race for getting the horse beat?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What are those moments like?
Not very good. Not good enough for me to say anything on the radio because she might be listening.
Is there a race in Post Time's career that you would listen? You've given some brilliant rides to this horse. Is there one you would like to have back and do it over again?
Yes, absolutely. In the Westchester, I felt like I gave him too much to do that day. That bothered me for a long time. But look, he rebounded and he's come back better. I feel like I had to be on him that day to realize that wasn't good enough. Like there was more there. I think the way he galloped out that day, I knew I'd given too much to do. That was all. I felt like I'd let him down that day. But that was one race. If you could give me back and we could rewrite that race, I would rewrite that one for sure.
Yeah. All right, size up the competition for me. You're a smart rider. I know you do your homework like all the top riders do. So size up the competition. Kind of give me the ideal scenario with your plan A in your head as you see it right now.
Look, I'll just break him like I always break him. He's not an aggressive horse early on, so I'd be very surprised if he was tugging on me early. There's a few horses I'd probably be watching early on in the race. Obviously, the Rodolphe Brisset horse I feel like will be up there on the pace, going the mile for the first time, Mulligan. So that would be one that I would definitely be keeping tabs on. Our Ed's horse from the rail, Book him down. And the Charlestown horse next to me makes it a little bit easier because I feel like he'll definitely be in front of me. Mm-hmm. And obviously, then we just by the time we get to a turn, I'll just have to be watching for Joe and Senior and the ones that close. And I hope I have him in a good spot. And if I have him in a good spot, let's say at the 3/8 hole, I think he'll make a nice run.
Sheldon Russell joining me here on the Equine Forum on HRRN. He gets ready to hop aboard post time this afternoon in the Cigar Mile 7-2 on the morning line. So one of the horses that you would expect is going to be around at the finish if all goes well, and that's what Sheldon is hoping for. Sheldon, let's do a little inside baseball here and bring people inside the mind of a jockey. They don't get to see you prepare for a race. You just walked me through some of the scenarios as you're hoping they unfold today, but how do you get ready to ride not just this race, but day in and day out? How does Sheldon Russell prepare to ride races?
Let's say for today, I'd probably get myself ready here soon. We'll head over to the room. I usually like to get to the races at least 2 hours before my first ride. I have one there in the third race, I think the third or fourth race today. Just go there. I'll probably take a shower when I get there again and do a couple of stretches. I'll get the scratches and handicap my 2 races. I just sort of keep to myself. It's a different room in every jock's room, but I don't know. I watched all the replays and everything. I'm familiar with the horse I rode and I ride in the third race, so I'll just keep to myself. We'll sort of have a game plan before we go in there, but I'll do some stretching. Drink something. I probably wouldn't eat anything. I'd had some breakfast earlier this morning, but it's pretty simple.
You mentioned handicapping the races. You're not handicapping the races like the rest of us, trying to figure out who's going to win it. You're hoping you're going to be the one that wins it. How do you do it?
Circle the horses that I try and follow and get familiarized with the silks, and it just makes my job easier. Are you one of those ones to follow, and the horses I don't want to follow?
Are you one of those jockeys that has the plan A, the plan B, the plan C in your head when you go into the gate?
Yeah, and probably a plan D and E as well.
How often do you have to get to those other plans?
Hopefully never, but I've had to sometimes. Yeah, it all depends. Look, it's different because he's not a speed horse. Look, it makes my job easier because he takes a little bit of pressure. There's no rush to get him up on the pace early. So no matter how he breaks it, I'm going to be okay with it today, I think.
Now, you mentioned your horse in the third race. That is Durs Smart, who is a 2-year-old son of Violence. Complete opposite scenario of what you're going to face in the Cigar Mile. In terms of the post position, I mentioned post time is on the far outside, going a mile. And this race, the third race, is a 1-mile, 1-turn race. Durs Smart is breaking from the inside post number 1. Talk to me about the difference there.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young horse. He had one race there at Laurel. Look, he's also another horse that didn't probably flash any early on in his first race, so it might sort of work out the same way. Look, he's got a couple less runners today, so it gives me a feel for the racetrack, gives me a feel for sort of see how the track's playing and everything. So, but he's a cool horse. Very excited to run him as well. It's his second start, so hoping he had learned something from his first race, a little bit extra distance today, and hopefully he comes running as well.
Sheldon, when I reached out and asked you to join me, I asked you if you had 15 minutes to join me on the show. You said, I don't know if I can get 15, but I'm good for 10. I think we just clicked past 10 minutes right now. So I took the over, so it looks like I'm going to win that bet.
Oh, awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on the show. Look, we're all excited today. We'll get ready. We'll head over there, and hopefully everything goes well. Look, he's our best horse in the barn right now, and I know Ellen and Brittany are excited to be here. And you know what? He's ran well at the track as well, so that's a huge relief and a positive, I think, today as well.
Now, Sheldon, good luck to you, to Brittany, to Ellen, to the entire team, and as important, maybe even more importantly, safe trip, my friend, every time you get a leg up.
I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, Sheldon Russell here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. So much fun. He's such a cool dude. I met Sheldon years ago, and we immediately hit it off. He's the type of person that if you see him around the racetrack, he's very approachable. He's going to spend some time talking with you, signing autographs, taking pictures, whatever. He's just a really cool, down-to-earth guy, and one heck of a rider. You don't win nearly 1,700 races in your career if you don't have some talent. And he said this is his best horse, and it is, but he's had other pretty good horses too. This is not the only horse he's ever won a greatest stakes with. He doesn't have the greatest stakes resume of a John Velasquez, but very few people do. But you look at his wins, I mean, his very first greatest stakes win came in the Toboggan Stakes in New York with a horse named Day, and then he comes back, wins the Illinois Derby in 2012. That was with Done Talking. Legendary in the Knickerbocker. New York's been good to Sheldon Russell. The Turf Monster, he won that. The Turf Monster is a cool race over at Parks. Dr. J. Dubb, the winner of that race, and then Set Piece, who he rode to win the Baltimore-Washington International Turf Cup Stakes. He post time, as I mentioned, and then his other greatest stakes winner, Apple Picker, in the Barbara Fritchie. So you put Sheldon Russell on a horse with ability, he's going to get it done. I really enjoyed that conversation with him. He's a cool dude. All right, when I come back, you're going to hear from another pretty cool dude. That is Eric Messiah. He is a valet at Gulfstream Park. If you don't know what that is, stay tuned. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
This filly is 4 for 4. Good cheer. Dominates the goldenrod.
Good Cheer, the daughter of Darley Stallion Medaglia d'Oro, ran her record to a perfect 4 for 4 with that win in the Grade 2 Goldenrod Stakes this past weekend. Her time of 143.26 for the mile and a 16th is second only to Medaglia d'Oro's Horse of the Year daughter, Rachel Alexandra. And that victory makes Good Cheer your Darley taking the reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Medaglia d'Oro, boasting 27 Grade 1 winners and the leading active North American sire by worldwide stakes winners. In addition to Good Cheer's win in the Grade 2 Goldenrod, Medaglia d'Oro was recently represented by his 5-year-old daughter Loved, winner of the Grade 3 Fall City at Churchill on Thanksgiving Day. Learn more about Medaglia d'Oro and all the Darley Stallions by visiting darleyamerica.com.
HRRN is live online. Go to our website at horseracingradio.net to stream all of our broadcasts live or listen to the show archives anytime. Read our blogs, get the latest news, and see our entire broadcast schedule. It's all there at horseracingradio.net. And follow us on Twitter at HRRN and like our page on Facebook. Search Apple Podcasts for HRRN and download our latest shows. HRRN is home to racing's biggest events, and our home on the web is at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Into the final stretch they come, and the front runner kicking for home is Champagne One, with limited liability trying to pick it up now with about 200 metres to go. Champagne One from limited liability, and the Grey Wizards coming from a long way back. It's going to be a big finish. Champagne One with 50 yards left to go. The Grey Wizard is absolutely flying. Champagne One, the Grey Wizard. Oh, it's very close. Leave it to the judge. Champagne One and the Grey Wizard, and limited liability between them. A gap to Really Good and Pioneering Spirit, who fought out 4th place, but we're going to leave the Belmont Gold Cup to the judge.
And the judgment goes to the Grey Wizard. It was his nose in front at the finish of that race. He's back in action later today at Gulfstream Park in the H. Allen Jerkens Handicap, one of a couple horses owned by Aron Wellman's Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. Aron's set to join me coming up 9:40 Eastern. He also has Locked going today in the Cigar Mile at Aqueduct, so plenty to get to with Aron. My next guest is so interesting. I was so excited when he agreed to join me here on the program. Eric Messiah works as a valet at Gulfstream Park. He works alongside jockeys Joe Bravo, Sean Bridgmahan, and Edgar Perez. But you just heard the steel pan music bed coming into the segment here. He has two passions, horse racing and steel pan music. He's a heck of a musician, and he joins me now here on HRRN. Eric, good morning.
Morning, my brother. How you doing, man?
Doing wonderful, brother. I'm happy to have you aboard and looking forward to hearing your story. I mentioned your two loves, horses and steel pan music. How did that begin?
Yeah. Wow, it's a long story. I'll try to keep it short, but so my love of music was first, and the thing is about music is everywhere you go, you find musicians. Well, I started working with horses, and I realized that everywhere I went, I found horse people and musicians that kind of, went together. I mean, I couldn't get away from it. I would go to Saratoga, and there'd be a reggae band playing down on Broadway, and I would end up joining in that band, and then the next morning I'd be at the racetrack riding horses, So it was kind of like two horses running down the lane together, the horses and the music. It just went together for some reason.
That's so cool. And you were born and you grew up in Antigua. You moved to New York, at age 15? Is that right?
Yes, sir. I came to New York from Antigua at about, age 15. And my mother lived directly across the parkway from Belmont Racetrack. It was just one of those things, And that was my first job, working at Belmont Racetrack,
Were you already into the steel pan music at that point, or did that come later?
No, I was already playing music from home, in Antigua as a young boy. And when I first came to New York, I hadn't done it. I couldn't really find any steel pan players, at that age. And then what happened was I went up to Saratoga, after working on my first year working on the track with Tommy Skiffington.
Yep.
You know, I was a teenager, and I was honored that he asked me, "Hey, I'm going up to Saratoga this year. You know, you want to go with me?" And I said, "Sure." And I was about 16 years old at the time, and I went to Saratoga. You know, it was like sleepaway camp for me. You know, I mean, I just love being around the horses, and I got to Saratoga, and I ended up hooking up with a couple of guys that were playing. I think down on Broadway there was a steel pan player, and I ended up meeting them guys and just joining in with them and working with the horses in the morning. You know.
Wow, what a beautiful experience. For people that aren't familiar, they're hearing us talk about steel pan music. Explain what that is, Eric.
So a steel pan is, let me first say, it was the only instrument that was invented in this century. Okay, a lot of people might not know that, so I throw that in there. And so steel pan music originated, they say, in Trinidad and Tobago. And it was originally just, people having fun, beating on maybe a pot or a pan to celebrate, Christmas or maybe a birthday or something. And what that turned into was guys actually taking a drum and actually making notes from a drum. So each drum is cut different sizes, and we use a tuning fork and a small hammer to actually get the pitch of that note. So the bigger drums would be the bass drum. Like in a band, you have the bass player who play the low notes, and then you have all these different cut pans, and they're all tuned different frequency and different notes. And when you put it all together, you get music. You can basically play any song that you want, you know?
That's so cool. How often will you play?
Oh, I would play sometimes, here in Florida during the season, what we call the season, the music season. There's some days I play every night, then there's some days I play 3 nights a week, depending on who needs us at a wedding. I've even played the Super Bowl up in Jacksonville, play any little event that's going on, a lot of Caribbean events here in Florida. So I stay pretty busy,
Wait a minute, the Super Bowl in Jacksonville, you played at the Super Bowl or?
Yes, sir. Yes,
what?
Sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, well, my band actually played at the Super Bowl in Jacksonville. That's a funny story. I don't know if you got time, but
go for it.
So we had a gig here in Miami that we got hired to play at, and they wanted us to start playing at 3:00. So we got there, we set up, and we started playing at 3:00. But there wasn't any patrons there yet, but they hired us to start playing at 3. So we started playing at 3. So this gentleman passed by, and he said to me, "Who are you guys playing for?" I said, "Sir, we were hired to start playing at 3. He left. He came back an hour later. We were still playing. He said to me, "Listen, I'm in charge of the music for the Super Bowl. Here's my card. I want you guys to give me a call." It was that simple. He was impressed that we were there playing, and the only people that was there was the guys setting up. But like I said, I let him know that day we were hired to play, and this guy, we called him, and he was, just like he said, the supervisor for the Super Bowl, and that's how we got that gig, playing at the Jacksonville Super Bowl.
Wow. What is the name of your band, Eric?
So it's Lauderhill Steel. Lauderhill Steel.
Lauderhill Steel. Okay. Eric Messiah joining me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. You're hearing him talk about his love of music, steel pan. He's a wonderful steel pan musician, obviously excellent to the point where he can play at the Super Bowl. Eric, let's talk about the horse racing side. You mentioned Tom Skiffington, and I know you worked with Gary Siaka, Ralph Nix. You started as a hot walker, an exercise rider, and now working as a valet. So I told our listeners earlier, if you don't know what a valet does day in and day out, just stay tuned because you would fill them in. So what does a valet do?
Oh, we do everything. We do everything. So valets were probably the first guys to multitask. When I say multitask, you know what that means. We do a lot of things. If you ever see the jockeys leave the racetrack after the last race, or you wonder why their sneakers are so white or their boots are so shiny, you know, their exercise boots are so shiny in the morning. The valets we do that. You know, we take care of them. I've been a taxi driver, a masseuse. I make sure my thing is that the jockeys represent the valets, and the valets represent the jockey. If you see Joe Bravo and his sneakers are dirty, you might say, man, you don't have a good valet. So for me, I try to keep my jockeys looking good, you know, and feeling good too. You know, it's an emotional thing too. Sometimes they, you know, it's like a good bartender. I don't know if you got, you know, when you have a good bartender or a good barber. When you go to your barber, you tell him your story, and he makes you feel good, hopefully, you know what I mean? And a lot of our job is that way, you know. I'm always communicating with my jockeys about his life or my life, you know, and you know, we have that type of relationship, you know. We do a lot for them.
Yeah, well, I told you when you and I were communicating back and forth about when I asked you to join me on the program, and I told you I don't know Edgar Perez all that well, but I do know Joe Bravo, and I do know Sean Bridgemahan, and they're two of my favorite people, and they're really fun to be around. What's it like working with them?
Oh, great fun, man. That's the really, really enjoyable part of the job. It's just a lot of fun, man. It's not like you're even working, you know what I mean? It's a lot of days we're handicapping, and then we're just, a lot of times it's too much fun, you know, but it's a great thing. It's a great thing, man. It's working with Sean. I've known Sean since he was an apprentice. I've known Joe since he was an apprentice, you know what I mean? So I have this relationship with these guys that it's more of it's not like a job. It's like a family, you know. They're like brothers to me, you know, or you know, some of them like younger sons, you know what I mean? I've been around the racetrack for a long time, so you get to develop these relationships with these guys where it's even after you're done work, you know what I mean, we're texting back and forth, we're calling each other, and you know what I mean, it's that type of relationship, man. It's a lot of fun.
As a valet, will you work with other riders outside of those three, or do you just have certain riders that you work with, Eric?
Here's the thing about being a valet. You have your little corner that you're the manager for, per se, okay? But when you're in the room with 20, 30 jockeys, you're working really with everybody. You know what I mean? You have your little spot where you have Joe and Sean and Edgar that you look after their needs, but across from you, if Jerry Bailey needs something, you help him. If Tyler Gaffalione needs help with something, you help him. So it's a thing where we all work together. You know what I mean? It's very hard to describe, but I don't know if in any other sport you have where all the guys who are competing against each other are in the same locker room all the time. You know what I mean? They're right next to each other. And, you know, sometimes it's maybe, you know, there's a disagreement about something and the other guy's in the other corner next to you, but you're the valet right there. You're the elder valet like me. I've been around for a while, so I know pretty much every jockey, and you're working side by side with everyone, you know?
How many valets are there?
So at Gulfstream, we carry 12 valets all the time.
Okay.
You know? And so my number is I'm the number 10 valet. That doesn't mean that I always saddle the number 10 horse. It just means that I'm the number 10 valet and there's 12 valets. So what we do is we start with the first race every day, and we start with the one horse. And my number, if there's a 10 spot in that first race, then I would saddle the 10. And then we keep rotating up and down all day until the last race, basically. So that's how that system works.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and people don't realize, Eric, that every jockey has their own saddle, right? Their own equipment. It's not like they're sharing equipment and everything.
No, sir. Pants. They have all their own pants, and each jockey has his own pants with his name on it, his own boots, his own helmet, and we're basically we're keeping that stuff clean. We're keeping it ready, handy for any jockey that needs it all day long. You know what I mean? It's a job that a lot of people see us go and we take the saddle from the jockey and we just walk back in. But you're from the time you get to the racetrack and you're in that jockey's room, you're moving because the races never stop. You know what I mean? We're constantly getting stuff ready for the next race. And even after the last race, we're getting it ready for the first race the next day. So, you know, we have washing machines there. We have everything there for the jockeys, you know, and we're constantly getting stuff ready, you know?
Sounds like a lot to keep up with. Have you ever messed up and given the jockey the wrong pair of pants or the wrong boots and he tries to put them on and can't get
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. Listen, if you notice, all the jockeys' pants are white, right? So you let your imagination run wild about that one. Everybody has white pants. Sometimes everybody has black socks, or you know what I mean. So it's like, you know, sleepaway camp. Everything has to be marked. Like when your mom used to send you, she would put your name on everything. So everybody has to have their name. But sometimes it gets, you know, I mean, it's a system, you know. What can go wrong will go wrong sometimes, you know.
Who are some of the other jockeys you worked with over the years that when you think about your time with them, they put a smile on your face?
George Chavez. I worked with him for few years, man. He was one of my favorites. I worked with Pat Valenzuela, Fernando Jara, who you know, these guys. When I think about these guys, I think about them as guys that were like family. George Chavez would call me like 9 o'clock at night. Hey, Messiah, I have to go to the airport and pick up my daughter. You know, I don't like to drive at night. You know, can you help me? Of course, yeah. I jump in my car. I go pick him up. We go to the airport, or you know, whatever he needed. You know, so a valet's job really is around the clock. It's always you know, around the clock. You know, that's the way I look at it.
I once played in a golf tournament, a charity golf tournament with George Chavez, and I remember when he took out his driver, the driver was taller than he was.
Right, exactly. Now, here's a real quick funny story about him. So he was riding at Belmont, and he came down to Florida to ride a stake race. I'm his valet. I get his bag with his equipment that his valet from New York packed. And I pulled out his boots, and he had 2 left boots in his bag. His valet in New York. And here's a guy that's, you know, 4 feet tall with the smallest feet that you've ever seen in the world. So he can't even borrow boots from another jockey. So, you know what I mean? You know, little stories like that, you know, we laughed about it. He ended up riding the race with 2 left boots. You know what I mean? And it was just one of those like funny stories that, you know, there's so many like that, man, you know.
What's the story you like to tell most when people ask you about being a valet and working around these jockeys? What's your favorite story to tell, Eric?
Oh, wow. I think maybe I like to tell stories about some of the really good horses that I've saddled over the years. You know what I mean? The horses that went on to win Kentucky Derbies, that before they were running in the Kentucky Derby, they were here at Gulfstream, you know, before they were talking about them on ESPN, or they were, you know, anybody, the whole country knew about them. I was saddling them here at Gulfstream. One of the horses that come to mind is Funny Side. You know, horses like that. Funny Side, maybe Barbaro. I remember saddling Barbaro in the Florida Derby. You know what I mean? And it was that day, I think, he proved to the country that he was a legit horse. If you go back and watch that race, you know, he had a big target on his back that day. But I had saddled him, and just the vibe that he gave me when we were tacking him up. It was Michael Matz on the other side as the trainer. I'm the valet. He had his groom, and he had another handler on his head. And I remember him being so ready, from a standstill, this horse jumped 10 feet in the air with all 4 of us, you know, right there with him. And I remember thinking, man, this horse is not going to get beat today. You know what I mean? Stories like that is, I think, you know, you can't really describe that feeling of being next to a horse like that. And then he went on to win the Derby and stuff like that. Horses like that you remember. Him, I think Big Brown is another one that comes to mind too. I remember seeing Big Brown in the allowance race when he ran here at Gulfstream, you know. When he came in the paddock, it was like the whole paddock went dark, you know. It was like he cast a big shadow, you know. Everybody didn't exactly know who he was, but man, you stop and you look at a horse like Big Brown when he first came into the paddock, you know. So stories like that, I think as a valet, I get to tell people, sometimes they show an old race of any horse that won a Derby, and I say, I saddled them at Gulfstream when he ran in the allowance race, or stuff like stories like that are the ones that I really enjoy telling people.
Eric, I have to get to a commercial break, but this conversation has been so much fun. I wish we could go on for another hour because I know there's plenty of more stories. I'll have to reach out to you again down the road, my friend.
Anytime, my friend.
Really appreciate
pleasure.
it. And keep it going with the steel pan too, man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I feel important, man. I tell Ronnie Nicoletti over here. I say you guys are making me feel important, you know?
Yeah, say hello to Ronnie and Brian and Victor Sanchez and all the guys down there for me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Hope to see you down here soon, brother.
You got it, my man. We'll talk to you soon. All right, Eric Messiah. Again, wonderful description of what a valet does. Some fantastic stories. Really cool guy. And appreciate the conversation here this morning. Maybe a job you didn't even know existed, but now you do. And you know what these guys go through each and every day. All right, coming up next, turn our attention back to the races with Aron Wellman of Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. He talks about Locked in today's Cigar Mile, and we'll look at today's H. Allen Jerkens. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
This is HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Tenda Equine and Pet Care products have been keeping world-class equine athletes happy and healthy for generations. Keep your equine athlete looking and performing well with Tenda Next Generation Wound and Skin Care Treatment, along with nutritional supplements, leg and muscle care products, salves, hoof care, poultice, topical aids, and grooming products. Visit tendahorse.com today.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Here comes Locked, swinging wide with Northern Flame, a quarter mile to go. The Wine Steward with Locked moving up on the outside, and Northern Flame in between that pair, top of the short stretch. Here is Locked. Locked racing by on the outside for the lead. The Wine Steward is responding to the inside. Generous Tipper goes to third. The Wine Steward responding to the challenge so far. Here's Locked right alongside. Locked, the Wine Steward. It is Locked to win the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity for Jose Ortiz. What a weekend for Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners.
Oh, what a weekend indeed. Locked winning the Breeders' Futurity. That was our man Kurt Becker with the call. That race was October 7th of last year, 2023. Locked returned with a victory last time out at Aqueduct. 7/8 of a mile, he won by more than 7 lengths. And today he's looking for another winning effort when he returns to Greatest Stakes competition in the Cigar, which is a really well-balanced race, in my opinion. I think the field is well-matched, and I think 3-year-old Locked has as good a shot as anybody in there. And you heard Kurt Becker say, what a day for Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. They've had many big days over the course of Aron Wellman's tenure there, and he is with me now here on HRRN. Aron, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Doing well. I understand you are in New York for the big race today.
I am.
Should be a good one. I think Locked has, I understand 3-year-old taking on elders, all that kind of stuff. But this is a horse that from day one has shown you all kinds of promise.
For sure. He's been one of the few and rare ones that do what you hope they're going to do when you sign a ticket for them as babies. And from the time they put a bridle on him and a saddle on his back, he's been an exceptional talent. Very fortunate to win a Grade 1 with him last year, third in the Breeders' Cup, and suffered a setback that knocked him off the Derby trail this year, unfortunately, but hopefully that's behind him, and we've got big races to win yet.
Yeah, he returned with a vengeance on October 19th. I know that was a 7/8 of a mile race, and today he goes a mile, which should be a perfect progression. But he was the heavy favorite that day, and he delivered the way he was supposed to. Tell me about that last effort.
Yeah, it was sort of circumstantial that we ended up running him 7/8. The only stakes option against 3-year-olds that was appropriate timing was the Perryville at Keeneland, which came up very tough and wasn't exactly what we wanted to do to get his campaign started off such a long layoff. And fortunately, this high-level allowance race popped up against older horses. And, of course, it was, with all respect to the horses that were in that field, it's far inferior competition to what he'll face today. But it was an ideal launching pad to get him going again. And what was really nice to see about it is that even though he's a horse that is a Grade 1 winner around 2 turns and we think he'll run as far as they write races, he showed brilliance in his comeback, won 7/8. He was prominent, chased a fast pace, and really powered down the stretch while being geared down by Johnny in fast time. So to show that dimension was very encouraging. And as you know, the opportunities are limited this time of year heading into 2025. But the Cigar Mile, it's a Grade 2 now, but it certainly holds Grade 1 prestige. And I don't think there's any question that today's field is a Grade 1 caliber event. So running him a 1-turn mile at the Big A over a track that he's shown an affinity for in his comeback, we're excited.
Aaron, let me ask you about the psychological aspect of owning a really talented horse that has a setback. So he wins the Breeders' Futurity. We heard that call from Kurt. He's the favorite over Fierceness and Muth and everybody else in a really contentious Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He ends up third that day. Then he has his setback, and he's off the Derby trail, and he misses the Triple Crown. Who knows? He may have turned out to be the best 3-year-old of the entire crop this year if he had stayed healthy. It certainly looked that way at the end of his 2-year-old season. As an owner, when you have a horse that's that good and they have to go to the sidelines for a little bit, how challenging is that to deal with?
Well, my parents always taught me from the time I was a young boy that this isn't a game made for men who wear short pants. Mm-hmm. And that is the truest of true comments as it relates to racehorse ownership. And it's something that I try to convey to our partners with frequency at Eclipse, and talent is really hard to come by, no matter who you are, what your means are and resources to be able to acquire equine athletes. Those elite talents are just so rare and so difficult to come by that when you have a horse like Locked, who was an exceptional 2-year-old and gave you every indication that he would be a Derby-type prospect, and we have to scratch of the morning of the Fountain of Youth, it's crushing. I mean, there's no other way to put it, and I'd be lying if I said it was anything but devastating. That being said, after you sort of shake off the initial gut punch, knowing that you've only got one chance at the Kentucky Derby and the Classics with a 3-year-old, and he's going to miss his, you really just have to put it all back into perspective that at the end of the day, it's about doing what's best for horses themselves as individuals. And Locked had a really rare injury that any number of renowned vets throughout the country, if not the world, we had look at it, had never seen before. So our focus was really on okay, what are we dealing with and how do we get him better? And it's a tribute to all the vets, thankfully, that diagnosed the injury to begin with, to Todd and his team for catching it early enough that we could be in a position to rehab him, and to Ian Brennan and his team down at Stone Street and Ocala for rehabbing. And obviously, to your point, at the end of the day, it's up to the horse. And if they're athletic enough, they're classy enough, and they're smart enough, they're going to take care of themselves and put themselves back in positions to show the world what they've got. And hopefully Locke will be able to accomplish that.
What exactly was the rare injury, Aaron?
He had a strain to a ligament towards the back of his knee. Mm-hmm. And thanks to modern technology, we might not have ever been able to diagnose it, but with PET scans, CAT scans now that are able to give you this 3D imaging, we were finally able to get to the bottom of it, because it was a huge mystery. And it was minor at the end of the day, but when it comes to a horse like Locke, you don't take any chances. His residual value as a stallion is immense. And of course, we had to back off, give him the requisite time to heal, and hopefully come back and not look back.
I don't know if this is I'm sure you've thought about this already, but assuming everything goes well in the Cigar today and he comes out of the race fine, would the plan be to keep him around for his 4-year-old season, or does he go right to stud?
Yeah, we're just really trying to focus on today. This is a monumental task at hand. I mean, from top to bottom, this is a nasty Cigar lineup. So we just want Locke to perform well and hopefully deliver a requisite result to justify going on in his racing career. But, we were hoping to get that prep race into him October, early November, which we did. He delivered. The Cigar immediately became the target. And if all goes well today, we get a good showing from him and he comes out healthy, a race like the Pegasus World Cup would certainly be on our radar to start the year. And after that, it really is a function of what's his form look like. And you got to weigh the pros and cons between, do we continue racing or does he sail off into the stallion shed?
Yep. Let's turn our attention southward to the H. Alan Jerkens Handicap at Gulfstream. The Gray Wizard is your horse in there. This is such a cool race. 2 miles on the turf. We don't see this very often.
Yeah, and I hate to break the news to you. We might have to cut this segment short, but, we talked a little bit earlier about taking bad news, but we're going to have to scratch the Gray Wizard today from the Alan Jerkens, unfortunately. We came up with a little issue that we're just not comfortable getting him out there onto the playing field today. So he's a pretty material scratch out of that race. I think he would have been a prohibitive favorite. It's always brutal, but he's had an awesome campaign and just been such a cool horse for our partners. While that's kind of a gut punch, we do have a stunt double for him today in the form of his half-brother, the Ginger Wizard. Certainly a big ask of him. He's lightly raced 3-year-old that, certainly is going to be tested for class. But we think, like his brother, the Gray Wizard, that the Ginger Wizard will really relish this ultra marathon 2-mile distance. So we're going to give him the opportunity to see if he could see out the trip against some pretty darn good turf marathoners. But yeah, the Gray Wizard, unfortunately, is a defection today, but hopefully his redheaded brother will rep the squad with pride.
Well, Aaron, listen, man, you handle everything with class, and I really appreciate this conversation here today. All the best with your runners, not just in these stakes races this afternoon, but going forward. I know you're always putting the horse first, and that's very much appreciated by myself and by the industry. So let's keep it rolling, and let's go win a couple of stakes later today.
Thanks, guys. And likewise, we appreciate what you do for the industry, and just have happy and healthy holidays, please, and a good new year.
You too, my friend. Aron Wellman here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. All right, when I come back, going to take a look at a couple of historical dates in racing history as they apply to this particular weekend, and I'll get you ready for Hour 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
My battle buddies and I attended the NHL Stadium Series at Yankee Stadium. We had never been there before, and two of us had never seen a hockey game. Man, we had the time of our lives. It was great therapy. Vet Tix, we can't thank you enough.
Every empty seat at a concert, a game, motorsports, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can help. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Find out how by visiting www.vettix.org. That's www.vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, taking you through this 3-hour journey on this Saturday morning. It is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. 2 hours just about in the books. A little more to go here in hour 2 before we segue into the third hour of the program, which begins with your TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley Anderson joins me to give you 3 races to keep an eye on later this afternoon. Poll question: who are you taking to win today's Cigar Mile? And Mulliken had a commanding lead early in the voting when I threw this out there shortly after we came on the air at 8 a.m. Eastern. Not the case anymore. Bookham Dano is now the choice of HRRN Nation in today's poll question. Bookham Dano, the New Jersey bred, looking to pull off the win in the cigar. You can keep the votes coming at HRRN on X. You can do that, too, on our Facebook page, Horse Racing Radio Network, or email the show, Mike at horseracingradio.net. Time to take a look at a couple dates in racing history as they apply to this particular weekend. Today, December 7th, 1957, the anniversary of a 2-year-old colt named Silky Sullivan, winning the 1 mile Golden Gate Futurity after making up, how about this, 27 lengths. In doing so, he established a running style that really became legendary. Horsemen to this day will still call it a Silky Sullivan when a horse comes running from far off the pace. December 8th, tomorrow, the anniversary of Power to Go, paying a record $2,922 for a $2 wager, which was made at Oxsarbin on the simulcast of the 11th race from the fairgrounds. That occurred December 8th, 1989. The previous record, by the way, for a payout of a $2 wager was set June 17th, 1912, when Wishing Ring paid $1,885.50 to win. But Power to Go, how about that? $2,922 for a $2 win wager. Not too shabby. All right, 2 hours in the books. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours of the program or any of the shows we bring your way every week, you know what to do. Head back to the website. Check out the podcast, horseracingradio.net. You can do that, too, on every podcast platform. Hour 3 is straight ahead. Stay with me. If your local station is leaving us at this time, continue listening to the third hour of the show. Nationwide on Sirius 162 XM 207, streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 coming up next, right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
In the Remsen, top of the stretch, to honor and serve. Now been given his cue. Leads by 2 with 1 furlong to go. Mucho Macho Man on the outside's been second throughout. Montown third, the others 2 far behind. Down to the final 6-8. It is to honor and serve. And Mucho Macho Man, to honor and serve, is the real deal here. And won by a length and 3/4.
Marley's Freedom and Come Dancing in a Thriller. Marley's Freedom just in front, and Marley's Freedom closes out an outstanding campaign with a win in the Go for One.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Disposable Pleasure has taken the lead. A remarkable run. Disposable Pleasure and Wildcat Smile. They're coming down to the finish. Disposable Pleasure, Wildcat Smile. Photo finish. Photo finish. Disposable Pleasure ran a terrific race in the Demoiselle.
Mashawish on the outside and Matru. Those two are right together. Totalist is putting in a big late run, and Red Vine is splitting horses. The 4 of them come down to the line. Looked like Totalist got there. Totalist with a big late run to win the Cigar Mile.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Yeah, welcome back to hour number 3 of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you on this Saturday morning. 1 more hour to go. And I began the program at 8 a.m. Eastern by saying, if I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. That famous line from New York, New York. And that is the case with what we're going to see at Aqueduct later today. 4 graded stakes, 3 grade 2s and a grade 3, all set to be contested. And a lot on the line, not just in the Cigar Mile, but you have the Remsen, which is a stepping stone toward next year's Kentucky Derby, the Demoiselle, the 2-year-old fillies going in there, looking ahead to next year's Kentucky Oaks, and, of course, you have the Gopher Wand as well, named for one of the greatest to ever do it. And we're going to talk about those races coming up in just a moment in the TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley Anderson will kick off hour 3, as we do every week, to give you 3 races to keep an eye on this afternoon. And Kurt Becker with the Stroll Through Racing History. That comes your way at 10:20. This week, I love Kurt. I love the way he picks these stories to cover for you every week in his stroll. This week, it is a horse named Frosty the Snowman, getting you in the mood for what's ahead on December 25th this year, and looking forward to that. Frosty the Snowman at 10:20, 10:30, Dale and Tim, I ask, they answer. They will talk about some of the hottest topics in the sport today. So stay tuned for all of that still to come. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours of the show, head back and check out the podcast, horseracingradio.net. And yes, I will mention it again, our website, after experiencing some technical issues, back up and running. So you can go to horseracingradio.net to check out the podcast of this show and all of our programs, and do that too on every podcast platform. Time now to begin hour 3 with the TwinSpires Triple Play. As I mentioned, Ashley Anderson joins me here this morning. Ashley, happy to have you aboard.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, looking forward to talking about these three races. You've selected all three from stakes races, and 3 of the 4 stakes races I just mentioned at Aqueduct this afternoon. But before we dive into that, you've done this kind of strategically because there are some promotions taking place at TwinSpires that you wanted to focus on.
Right. We do have a late pick 5, hit it and split it at Aqueduct all day on Saturday. Well, I should say at the late pick 5, and it's a $5,000 prize pool. You can compete to split that prize pool if you hit the late pick 5. And then we have a $10 money back offer for the Cigar Mile. So if your horse finishes second, you can get up to $10 back on your first win bet in that race.
All right, there you have it. And we're going to talk about 3 of the 4 graded stakes. You also have a kind of a cool promotion going on at Turfway that we're going to talk about after we walk through these races as well. So we'll hold that until after we walk through the triple play. We begin with race 4 at Aqueduct, which is the Go for Wand. I mentioned name for one of the greatest to ever do it. 1 mile on the main track. It is race number 4. 1:08 Eastern is the post. Ashley, how'd you see the Go for Wand?
So a lot of these races I felt like were kind of wide open at Aqueduct, and you have a Colt, the 5-2 morning line favorite, on a little bit of a losing streak, and so I wanted to get a little creative, find some value, and I landed on number 5 Comparative at 6-1. Now this is a Street Sense filly trained by Brad Cox, who has been red hot at Aqueduct. He's 7 for 15, and he's finished in the money in 14 of those 15 starts. Comparative had kind of fallen off earlier in the year on a 2-race losing streak, but coming off a long layoff, about 7 months, and cutting back to a mile here. Last time she raced at a mile, she won at Aqueduct. An allowance optional claimer beat 6 rivals that day. And I feel like coming off this rest, we're going to see improvement here. She has won twice from 3 starts at Aqueduct, so I'm looking for value at 6-1, and I'm going to back Comparative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned Brad Cox and his extremely impressive record of running horses at Aqueduct this meet. He's also pretty darn good with horses coming off of extended layoffs like this, winning at a 28% clip according to the Brisset past performances. So another check mark going in the direction of Comparative later this afternoon.
Absolutely. In fact, that allowance optional claimer where she won, she was coming off a long layoff that day in November, so that makes me feel even better here.
Yeah, runs well, fresh. I'm going to tell you, Ashley, I was a little surprised to have you go with Comparative in this race over number 8, Sheeta Beauty, because we've done this segment many, many times together, and I think it might be twice now that you've sided with Sheeta Beauty in a race we've talked about here on the Triple Play. Not today.
Yeah, I actually was very tempted to do that, and I'm certainly going to include Sheeta Beauty in exotics because this is another horse for the course. 3 wins from 6 starts at Aqueduct and also 2 third-place finishes, also a distance specialist here. But I feel like with the way the pace might shake out, Comparative is going to sit a little closer to the early lead, so that's where I'm going in this race.
Could be a nice exacta, though, if you can get Comparative anywhere near that 6-1, and then Sheeta Beauty 9-2 on the morning line. You hook those 2 up in an exacta, maybe an exacta box, and who knows? You could cash a pretty nice ticket.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, and of course, if you're like me, you go Comparative, Sheeta Beauty, all in the trifecta, and hope for a bomb to run in there third.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see if we can pull it off. Comparative 6-1 on the morning line, the top pick in the Go for Wand for Ashley Anderson here this morning. Leg 2 of the TwinSpires Triple Play. You've chosen to go to race number 8, and this is the Grade 2 Demoiselle, 1 1/8 on the main track. The 2-year-old ladies in the spotlight here. How'd you see this one?
So this is a Kentucky Oaks prep, and it's worth 10 points to the winner. Now, I just told you all about how Brad Cox is doing great at Aqueduct. He's also doing really well with 2-year-old fillies, and there is a headliner in here who I am playing against, and I might be one of the few people doing this. But number 1, Mahima, 4-5 on the morning line. And I am going to try to beat this horse. Now, I feel like this horse could come out and win big, but this is a 2-year-old, and I feel like 2-year-olds can be a little inconsistent. This horse has won by 13 lengths, combined 13 lengths in 2 starts, but stretching out the 2 turns for the first time, racing a 1 1/8, breaking from the rail, I feel like there's a chance to find a different 2-year-old filly in this field. So I landed on Number 8, Beauty Reigns at 9-2 for Bill Mott. This is an Into Mischief filly out of a Tappet mare, so certainly bred for longer distances. Bill Mott is a 20% winner with horses coming off a maiden win. Beauty Reigns won on debut, and Bill Mott is also a 17% winner first time at a route, 20% winner in graded stakes, so all very good percentages there. Junior Alvarado retains the mounts, and looks like Beauty Reigns has been working out pretty sharply at Belmont, so I'm going to take a chance with a different filly in this field.
I was thinking about this the other day, talking about Bill Mott, and of course Junior Alvarado gets the leg up aboard Beauty Reigns. Bill Mott and Junior Alvarado the past 2 to 3 years have just been an incredible combination, and one of the things I was thinking of is this the new Bill Mott Jerry Bailey combination? Remember when Jerry was riding and riding at his peak of his powers, if you will? It seemed like Bill Mott, Jerry Bailey were just unbeatable, and Junior Alvarado seems like he's stepping right into that role.
Could be, and the last 2 months they've been winning at a 24% rate paired up together, so maybe we get another win here today.
Yeah, I don't know if they're quite up to that level that Jerry Bailey and Bill were at back in the day, but they're pretty good together, and I can see why you went that direction with Beauty Reigns, especially with that 9-2 morning line. Let me go back to Brad Cox for a minute, and Muhima, who is 4-5 on the morning line in the Demoiselle. Let's just say, if she does pass this test, she breaks from the rail, she stretches out, goes a mile and 1/8, and let's say she wins impressively. Brad Cox joined me on the show last week, and he talked about Good Cheer, who ends up winning the Goldenrod Stakes last weekend at Churchill. He also has Immersive, who is I think the presumptive 2-year-old filly champion. If he ends up with Muhima running a big race today, my goodness, Brad Cox is loaded with the 2-year-old fillies.
Right. I mean, you could have half the field in the Kentucky Oaks for all we know, but you certainly have some really good horses. I mean, Good Cheer has been dominant at Churchill Downs, so, having the form at the track where the Kentucky Oaks is run, that's the horse that I'm eyeing right now, but we'll see what Muhima does stretching out. I mean, who's to say by the time they turn 3, maybe it's going to be a whole different Brad Cox runner, or maybe someone else. I don't know.
Yeah, I asked Tim Wilkin and Dale Romans this very same question I'm going to ask you. I asked them that on I Asked the Answer last Saturday morning. Who would you rather have right now? And that was before Good Cheer won the Goldenrod, but would you rather have Good Cheer or Immersive if you're looking ahead to the Kentucky Oaks? How about you, Ashley?
I'm going Good Cheer. Just the fact that I've watched this horse at Churchill and every time impresses me. Luis Saez as well, being the regular rider for Good Cheer, and Luis just had a huge meet for the fall meet, was the leading rider by 20 wins. So that combination right there too, going into the Kentucky Oaks, I'm going with Good Cheer.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, Beauty Reigns is the top pick in race number 8, the Demoiselle, for Ashley, 9-2 on the morning line. Race 9, the final leg you've chosen for the TwinSpires Triple Play. It is the Grade 2 Cigar Mile Handicap, all presented by TwinSpires. 1 mile on the main track. Who wins the Cigar?
This is a very exciting race. You can make a case for almost every horse in this field. You've got Mulligan, your 3-1 morning line choice, coming off a 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Now, I ended up going with the second choice on the morning line because when I was handicapping this before morning lines came out, I just really liked number 11 Post Time at 7-2, coming off a 2nd in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile with a 99 Brisset. Speed figure 2 back. He won by 11 lengths in the Polynesian Stakes at a mile, and he's got a win and a 2nd from 2 starts at Aqueduct. He's never finished worse than 2nd in 5 tries from a mile. Trainer Brittany Russell and her husband are winning at a 32% clip paired up together the last 2 months with a positive ROI, and Post Time is working out very well ahead of this. There is enough speed here that I feel like it can set up for someone coming off the pace, so Post Time is who I'm looking at from an outside post.
And no concerns with that Post 11 going the flat mile at Aqueduct?
No, I think, it has the closing kick, and it actually, looking at Brisset, the outside posts are winning at a little bit lower rate, but I think it's possible with Post Time's late pace ratings, 101 last out at a late pace rating, so I think can close well and get the job done.
Do you use Mulligan at all?
If Mulligan wins, I think it's going to be gate to wire, but I think, if I play an exact, I'll play Mulligan underneath, but not playing Mulligan on top, trying to beat Mulligan. And I was going to say, we have this $10 money back offer for the Cigar Mile. If your horse finishes second, you get your money back up to $10. There's a long shot that I'm going to play as well, and that's number 6, Law Professor at 15-1. This is a true horse for the course. 5 wins from 7 starts at Aqueduct, and then the 2 losses were a second and a third at this track, also 3 for 6 from a mile. So one to consider with this money back offer if you want to take a swing at a big price. This horse, if it finishes first, then great. If it finishes second, you get your money back.
Yeah, it's a great promotion. Let me ask you one other question regarding the field here for the Cigar Mile. What the heck has happened to Senor Buscador?
That's a good question. And that's another horse, I took a look at this horse because, last year racing at Aqueduct, finished second in the Cigar Mile, and then next out was beating a neck in the Pegasus World Cup, and then, won the Saudi Cup next out. So the horse has kind of fallen off, but maybe coming back to Aqueduct, we see a resurgence here. But, did have a huge Brisset speed figure in the Breeders' Cup Classic and, wasn't the cleanest trip. So I'm not going to write off this horse, but, I think play underneath for me personally.
Okay, I lied. One more question. What do you do with New Jersey-bred Bookham Dano breaking from the rail?
Oh, that one's hard. That horse, I feel like, stretching back out a little bit to a mile, has been racing 7 furlongs, 6 furlongs. My gut is saying I just don't see it in this race, but, has Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard, obviously a very good jockey to have at Aqueduct, but I just feel like there's some horses that are a little bit better form right now. Bookham Dano's just barely been beaten the last 2 starts, but I just don't think this is the spot.
All right, let's recap the 3 races and the 3 choices selected by Ashley Anderson on today's TwinSpires Triple Play. Race number 4 at Aqueduct, she'll take number 5, Comparative, at odds of 6-1. Race 8, number 8, Beauty Reigns, is her top pick at odds of 9-2. And in race 9, she'll go with number 11, Post Time, at odds of 7-2. Don't forget, you can play those races and all the races that you're going to bet this weekend and every week with TwinSpires. Ashley, before I let you go, I mentioned that promotion at Turfway later today. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we have a $10 money back offer at Turfway as well in select races. So that'll be race 3, race 5, race 6, and race 8. And that is if your horse runs second, you get up to $10 back on your first win bet in each of those races. And then we also do have a $500 Turfway Handicapping Championship Qualifier tournament going on as well. So it's a $500 total buy-in. $250 goes to your bankroll, $250 to the prize pool. So if you are interested in playing tournaments, we're always offering tournaments these days, and we've got a good one at Turfway tonight.
Great stuff. Ashley Anderson with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley, appreciate it. We will talk again in a few weeks.
Sounds good.
All right, when I come back, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History. I told you a really fun story about a horse named Frosty the Snowman to kind of get you in that holiday spirit if you're not already there. Stay tuned for that. Dale and Tim coming up 10:30 Eastern. I ask, they answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
You're listening to HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
A 2-time Grade 1 winner at Saratoga with nearly $2.5 million in earnings, and one of the best sons of Super Sire, Gunrunner.
And it is Gunite, and he's going to win the 117th running of the hopeful.
Gunite is maintaining the lead, and he will defeat Elite Power in the Forgo.
Gunite posted 9 triple-digit buyers, won 9 races, and hit the board in 19 of 21 starts. Precocious, fast, durable, and tough. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, online channel 999, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He began his career on dirt, later set a world record on turf, and he was named in honor of a seasonal character, which is closely identified with the holiday season. His name was Frosty the Snowman. Foaled on March 20th, 1985, Frosty the Snowman, and we are talking about the horse, did not have a corncob pipe, a button nose, or two eyes made out of coal. Instead, he was a bay colt by His Majesty, out of Frost Skater by Diplomat Way. His sire was a track record setter around 2 turns on dirt, while his dam was a graded stakes-winning sprinter. Legend has it that Frosty the Snowman of holiday fame was from New York, and as we all know, he constantly had to be wary of melting on warm days. It seems ironic then that Frosty the Snowman of racing fame was born and raised in Florida, the Sunshine State. He was bred and raised at Bridlewood Farm in Ocala of former Chicagoan Arthur Appleton, and he would remain with Bridlewood throughout his career as a racehorse and stallion. Racing in the barn of trainer Happy Alter, Frosty the Snowman made his debut in September of 1987 as a juvenile, winning a maiden special weight and then beating Allowance Company in races spaced 2 weeks apart. He was 6-1 in the maiden event at 7 furlongs, while he was 3-5 in the allowance victory at 1 mile on the dirt, drawing clear by 9 lengths. Frosty would run his string to 3 wins and as many starts in January of 1988, capturing an allowance race for 3-year-olds around 2 turns, once again as the odds-on favorite, once again winning by open lengths. But when stepping up to graded stakes company, the results were less than impressive. In the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth, Frosty finished 8th as the 3rd betting choice, some 13 lengths behind winner 49er. In the Grade 1 Florida Derby, he was 9th at odds of 26-1, beaten 30 lengths by winner Brian's Time. In the Grade 2 Tropical Park Derby, he was 7th at odds of 4-1. In the Grade 3 Derby Trial at Churchill Downs, he finished 4th in a 4-horse photo finish that was dubbed the Run for the Noses. And in the Grade 2 Peter Pan Stakes at Belmont Park, Frosty was last of 7 as the biggest price on the board, finishing well behind Seeking the Gold. Despite those setbacks, Frosty the Snowman won in Allowance Company at Keeneland and took the black-type Hollywood Handicap at Calder that season. As of July 1988, his record stood at 5 wins in 13 career starts, all of which had come on the dirt. Sent back to Bridlewood for a rest, Frosty the Snowman injured himself in the paddock. What was intended to be a brief time away from the races soon developed into a much longer break than anticipated. It would be a 9-month layoff, to be precise, before Frosty the Snowman would be back at the races. The original Frosty was famous for saying, "Don't you cry, I'll be back again someday." And so too, Frosty the Racehorse was back again as of April 1989 at Hialeah Park, but the trainer had made a change. Noting that Frosty the Snowman's sire had a rich turf pedigree, Alter decided to switch Frosty from dirt to turf. It was a decision which paid immediate dividends. Frosty the Snowman won back-to-back races in Allowance Company on the grass at Hialeah before running second by a neck in the Grade 1 Hialeah Turf Cup. Alter commented that it was difficult to believe this had been Mr. Appleton's Derby hopeful just 1 year earlier. Frosty now had a new lease on life, and he was flourishing. By the summer of 1989, Frosty the Snowman was becoming something magical on the turf. And while he did not need a silk hat for his magic, like the fictional character of the same name, the lyrics of the popular song still seemed to apply. Running here and there all around the square saying, "Catch me if you can. Let's run and we'll have some fun. Thumpity thump thump, look at Frosty go."
There was a world record in the Grade 3 King Edward Gold Cup handicap at Woodbine, getting a mile and an eighth on the grass in 1 minute 44 and 4/5 seconds. There was a graded stakes win in the Swoon Sun at Arlington Park and a runner-up in the Grade 1 Arlington Handicap. But the magic ran dry in his final career start when Frosty finished off the board as the favorite in the 9th running of the Arlington Million, Grade 1. He would be retired to stallion duty at Bridlewood, where he would sire 11 crops, including 11 stakes winners. Alter, a former school teacher, once said of Frosty the Snowman, "A horse like Frosty has had his foundation. He has been through elementary school, junior high school, and high school. And when he set the world record, it was his college degree." It was an explanation which was logical. It made sense. After all, no one in his right mind would believe in magic, unless perhaps the horse in question was Frosty the Snowman. And don't you cry. We'll be back again someday. In fact, we'll be back again next week. We hope you'll join us then for another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The championship meet is back at Gulfstream Park. Come to Hallandale Beach and experience the best in live racing action Thursday through Sunday, plus an expanded event schedule. Join us trackside at the Carousel Club or head upstairs to 10 Palms Restaurant with an elevated view of the track. Enjoy the world's best horses, trainers, and jockeys as they compete all winter long. For stake schedules, reservations, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Owning a competitive racehorse gives you a thrill like no other.
And it's Thormistor getting his second win and charging through for Danny Sorensen.
Since 2006, Mojo Racing Partners has customized affordable racehorse ownership groups to help people experience this excitement.
She's for you, home in front.
For as low as $41 a month, you can be part of Mojo's winning connections. Get your Mojo working by visiting MojoRacingPartners.com.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
National Law now has some company. Awesome Warrior to the outside. Ray Images dropping back. Then it's the Tire Man. He's rolling from the back. He's in third and beginning to gain. National Law kicks clear again. He says, come and catch me. They go through the far turn at the top of the stretch. National Law just coasting along. National Law has the lead. The Tire Man chasing in second, but he has his work cut out for him if he's going to reel in National Law, who's a bit green in the lane. National Law drifts out. The Tire Man's coming up the rail. National Law going very, very far outside. On the inside, the Tire Man, National Law. These two are going to hit the wire together on both sides of the track. Photo. Final time, 1:47.4.
Well, 2-year-old National Law drifted out badly in the stretch, but held on to break his maiden Tuesday at Parks. That was Jessica Paquette with the call. But it was the post-race antics of jockey Paco Lopez that got everyone's attention. Dale and Tim share their thoughts here this morning. Plus, we'll tell you which recent 2-year-old winners we are absolutely buying here in early December. And after his historic win in last Saturday's Clark, would it be right or wrong to say trainer Ken McPeak is the leader for this year's Eclipse Award as top trainer? All of those topics and much, much more are straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin. And it's all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business. And it all starts just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
All right, gentlemen, plenty of things to get to here this morning, and we're going to begin with the news that attracted plenty of attention this past week, and it blew up social media pages for horse racing. It made national news after winning Tuesday's 5th race at Parks aboard National Law. Jockey Paco Lopez was pulling up the 2-year-old colt when he aggressively struck his horse across the neck in the face area with the whip. The video, guys, it's not pretty. Dale, I'm going to begin with you. Your thoughts on what we saw at Parks on Tuesday?
No, it wasn't pretty at all. Paco's a friend. I like Paco. But that was anger and fear mixed into one, but you can't let it come out against the racehorse. It's, whatever was going on with the horse that day to bolt like he did, I'm sure Paco was scared. You don't know if you're going over the outside fence when that happens, but he was out of danger at that point. I could see hitting him in the neck if he thought it was going to prevent him from going over the rail. But the race was over. The outrider was coming to get him. That was pure frustration. And I don't know what the suspension will be. I'm sure there'll be a lengthy suspension, but I hope there's some anger management involved. And you just got to understand these are animals, and even though it can be frustrating, you can't get that mad and be that violent with one. Could have hit it in the eye. Could have taken out. Anytime you're hitting around the head, that's a problem. I mean, that's a last resort to keep you from going over the outside fence, but not once you're already pulled up. It was a sad day for racing.
It's just, Paco has been down this road before. He's had some issues with the whip, and I think he's had 10 HISA whip violations, and you're only supposed to be able to hit the horse 6 times in a race, but this was just something totally different when the race is over. He's ticked off at the horse for drifting as far as he did, and he takes his frustration and anger out on a defenseless animal who's a 2-year-old who's made, his 3rd start. These things happen with some young horses. They have to learn these things. And for Paco to do that, it's just a horrible, horrible look on racing, which, face it, racing needs every positive thing they can have in it right now. And the fact that a jockey's belting a horse across the face with a whip is just, you can't forgive that. He's come out and apologized for it. And, that's, of course, he had to come out and say something because what he did was egregious and horrible. And I just don't understand why. No, I do understand why, I guess, because he's frustrated, like Dale said, and he's mad, and, that the horse did what he did. And maybe Paco didn't even know if he had won the race. But to take it out on the animal is just, it's a vicious thing that he did. And he's got to pay for it. I mean, there's no two ways about it. He should have a very, very lengthy suspension. And he said he's going to go and get the anger management stuff. But, it's going to be a while before the public was going to trust him, if you ask me.
What steps should Paco Lopez have to take in order to make his way back into the saddle again, guys?
Well, I think he is. He's not trying to defend himself, for one. I think you just have to admit how wrong you were and come out and say it was fear and anger mixed together, and you're going to work on yourself. You can't let things like that. You can't let emotions get involved in something that is as dangerous as what they do every day, because it could hurt another jockey. The anger can come out in a race. Those things you can't. You have to have a calm, steady demeanor to be doing what they're doing every day. And he just got to work on himself. But Paco's a nice guy. Everybody meets him, you love him. He's fun to hang out with. But obviously he's having some anger issues that need to be worked out.
I mean, I've dealt with him plenty of times, and he's always been fine, after races and all this. With something like this, with the public perception that Paco Lopez has, and I'm going to ask you this, Dale, would you still use him?
I don't know. I've struggled with this because the way he's ridden some races before this ever happened bothered me, and it's too aggressive, way too aggressive. He's gotten a lot better about it, and I started riding him again after that. He's a great rider. He obviously wins. He's one of those guys that doesn't look pretty on the horse, doesn't look good in the race, doesn't look like even he's strategically in the right places a lot of times to me, but the horse just flat run for him. And I started using him a little more last winter because it seemed like he was controlling his horse and not riding as rough as he was before. He actually dropped himself on a horse of mine one time. It didn't make any sense to me why he was in the spot where he was, and the horse fell, and Paco came off, and the horse never ran again. So it's not like he was just after somebody. He even did it to himself, being too aggressive. And I didn't like that for a long time, but you have to think twice before you name him on.
I think that's going to happen as he moves forward. I just think trainers and owners are going to be like, well, we don't want to be the one that's under the public scrutiny now. We're putting this guy on our horses.
Yeah, hopefully he gets something, takes care of himself, and comes back, and it will be different and do things differently.
No, he's going to have to. I think one more strike, and he may be out permanently. Again, if you do that during the race as a safety measure, last resort, Dale, as you called it, I think that's correct. If that happens during the race as the horse is drifting toward the rail and it becomes a safety issue, okay, but you do it afterwards, inexcusable. And Paco's got some things to work through now. He said he will. Let's see how this plays out going forward. He will be suspended for some time to come now, and the decision still to be made there on the length of the suspension, but we'll see how this plays out. All right, topic number 2. We're going to turn to some buy or sell topics. We always enjoy playing this game here on I Ask the Answer. And the first one comes from our friend Shane in North Carolina, who wants to know about 2-year-old Patch Adams. He didn't run in the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes last Saturday at Churchill Downs, but he turned plenty of heads with this maiden-breaking performance on the undercard.
And Patch Adams is coming too. Here's Patch Adams up for the lead at the top of the stretch. Set down for the drive as they turned in. That's the one trying to go with Patch Adams, but Patch Adams has kicked it into high gear. 5 in front and opening up with each and every stride. Patch Adams finishes with a flourish and is geared down to win it by 10. Can't Stop Munnings came on to grab second. Tight for third there, McGordy or Shogun or That's the One.
A pretty good eye by Travis Stone. The official margin was 10.5 lengths, and he earned a 102 Brisset speed rating in that maiden-breaking win. Guys, Shane wants to know, are you buying or selling the Son of Into Mischief as a Derby contender on the trail moving into 2025? Tim?
I always have a hard time with these when we're talking about it in December, but here we are in early December. I'm going to say, I'm going to buy them because winning by 10.5 lengths, it's an impressive feat for any horse. But the 2-year-old doing it in his second start, and he's checking all the boxes. Windstar, he's Into Mischief, Brad Cox. The ceiling might be pretty high for this guy, and let's see what he does moving forward. But after 2 starts, I'm gonna buy him on the Derby trail. But there's an awful lot that can happen between now and then. Let's see what happens as the water gets a little deeper. But for right now, I'm buying him.
I was in the race. I did happen to run second, 10.5 lengths behind him, and thought my horse ran huge. Cha-ching, play the cash register. I wish he was on a van to Gulfstream Park to barn 27 right now. I'll say that. That's a good horse.
Yeah, pretty impressive win by Patch Adams. And, Shane, we appreciate the question. If you have a question for Dale or Tim, you know what to do. Send them in, mike@horseracingradio.net, or post them on our social media pages, and we will work those into the shows going forward. Guys, we're going to stick with buy or sell for the next two topics. How about the winner of the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes, First Resort, from the barn of Eoin Harty? Are you buying or selling the son of Uncle Mo, Dale Romans?
Nice horse. You can't, good connections, ran a huge race. I'm buying. First of all, I love this day at Churchill Downs, both of them. The Future Stars 1 and 2. Doug Bradar came up with this when he was racing secretary, and I think it's become two of my favorite days in racing. I'm buying. Play the register.
I want to hear the other sound. I have nothing against the horse at all, but he's after he broke his maiden, he's been in graded stakes. He was in the Grade 2 Saratoga Special. He was second in that race. He went to Woodbine, ran the Summer Stakes. The one-turn Grass Mile was fourth, and he was 9-1 and 8-1 in those races. Then he goes to the Kentucky race, and he's 6-1. He wins that. I don't know if there's any real buzz about this horse yet. Maybe there will be in time, but for right now, I'm buying. I'm selling them up the river.
All right. Well, how about this one that happened last Saturday? It was also a pretty good day for our man Dale Romans, as he added another stakes win to his impressive resume when his 2-year-old Keep It Easy ran away from the competition in the Ed Brown Stakes.
Keep It Easy's not far behind third. Vehemently's in fourth. Tough Catch bottled up in behind horses fifth. Tough Catch needs to find a way out. Looked outside. They're off the turn. Keep It Easy comes charging off the turn and kicks away by 4. Tough Catch has shaken loose from the pack. Has 4 lengths to make up on Keep It Easy and just a 16th to do it and won't do it. Keep It Easy dazzles by 4 on the wire. Tough Catch second by 6 or so, and then it was Glean and Thrilla.
Dale, it's always great when the announcer uses phrases like charging off the turn and dazzles when he's talking about your horse in any race. And I know you're buying this horse, but how closely should we be watching this son of Hardspun on the road to the Kentucky Derby?
Watching close. He's a good one. I mean, he ran fast. He does everything right. You remember, he's the one Saratoga Special we took up there off of a 6 furlong 9 and change maiden win at Churchill, and I thought he was as good a horse as there was at Saratoga this summer, and he fell right on his head coming out of the gate. And for him to bounce back like he did off of that race, he jammed himself up a little bit. It took a while to get him back and get his head right again, and to run like he did, I'm pretty excited about him coming to Gulfstream Park. He'll be here Saturday morning.
I remember being up there at Saratoga Dale just about every morning with you out in the barn, and the one thing you said to me, and I remembered this before that race, the special, you said he's the big horse in the barn, and you were really looking for big things out of him, and I know how disappointed you were when he did have the trouble in that race, and I was really looking forward to what he was going to do moving forward, and he did what you thought he was going to do up at Saratoga in this last race. So I think I'm not just saying this because you're on the panel with me here and we're friends, but I think this horse has a lot of talent, and I think he's going to do some fun things for you down in Florida this winter.
Play the cash register. There you go. Thank you, Tim. He is a quality horse.
Dale, what do you do with him from here?
I don't know. He's going to come down here. He won't run the rest of the year, of course, and then maybe try to get him in the Fountain of Youth and the Florida Derby, something like that. 2 starts, try to make him a Derby horse. But it's also I like his name. I told this story before. I think when he broke his maiden about him getting his name, and Vinny Viola, of course, owns a piece of him. Corey Johnson's group and West Point Thoroughbreds, and Terry and Vinny and I were having a 3-way conversation one day, mostly just talking about things in life and not even talking about horses that much. And we were talking about me quitting drinking, and it had been about 9 months at the time. And I said, Vinny, life's been pretty easy since I quit drinking. It seems like all my problems went away. He said, well, let's keep it easy. And then Terry says, we need to name this horse that. And that's how he got his name, Keeping It Easy.
Fantastic story and pretty darn good horse.
Yep.
Dale, what do you see from him that leads you to believe he can? This was a 6.5 furlong win. What do you see from him that leads you to believe he can be effective going longer?
Well, he's a 16-2 brute, a monster. I mean, he's just a big, strong, easy-moving horse, and I don't see any reason why he can't just keep going. A Derby horse will win at any distance. They're fast. You got to be fast, but you carry that speed a mile and a quarter. And he acts like he's that kind. I mean, like I said, I've been fortunate enough to be there a few times, and he acts like the type that can get there. There's a lot of strides between now and then, like I always say, but at least we got something to work with.
Does he remind you of any other horse you've had?
He's sort of like a calm Shackelford. He's not as he doesn't have the personality, but he's got the way he moves and how easy he does things on the racetrack. A little bit of Shackelford in him if I had to pick one.
But he's pretty laid back.
He is. He's more. Well, he's a racehorse, but he's more laid back than Shackelford. But all of them are. Shackelford was a different duck when it came to the way he acted. He was fun.
I remember.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one to pick. If he can be half as good as Shackelford, you're going to have a lot of fun with Keep It Easy going forward. So congrats to Dale and to the team for that big win last weekend at Churchill Downs. Guys, let's move on. It is time to say hello to our good friend Nick Zito, as we do every week, and you get to tell me if the following statement is right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
All right, Nicky, let's find out. When Rattle and Roll crossed the finish line in front to win the Clark last Saturday, trainer Ken McPeak, or I should say last Friday at Churchill Downs, trainer Ken McPeak became the first trainer in history to win the Kentucky Oaks, the Kentucky Derby, and the Clark in a single season. Remarkable accomplishment. McPeak's runners have earned more than $15 million this year. That is the most ever for McPeak in a single year. I say those accomplishments are worthy of this year's Eclipse Award as top trainer. Guys, am I right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale, you know Kenny well. What do you think?
He gets my vote. I think he deserves it. It's a lot of times it's about the most money. The year I won, it wasn't about the most money. I think I was third on the money list or fourth even. But it was the right races, and Kenny's won the right races this year. Give him that little horse.
I think sentimentally, my vote should go to Kenny McPeak. I mean, that's he's going to have the horse of the year in Torpedo Anna, and what he did was historical. And you should reward people for doing historical things in the game, I think. But the problem is going to be the year that Chad Brown had. I mean, Chad had double the earnings that Kenny had. He's got 207 wins, 81 for Kenny. He's got 47 stakes to 9 state-graded stakes for Kenny. Chad's going to take some votes, but when you win the Kentucky Derby and you win the Kentucky Oaks, and you're going to have the horse of the year, that's a year-long accomplishment. And to be able to keep this Torpedo Anna going for as long as he did. So Chad Brown's going to take votes, but I don't know if he's going to get mine. I think I'm going to vote for Kenny McPeak.
I think sometimes you have to look beyond the stats and the numbers and take into account, as Dale said, what races Kenny was able to win this year, and the fact that he will be training the likely horse of the year in Torpedo Anna. That goes miles for me in terms of looking at him as the guy who should be voted top trainer this year. Guys, if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe Ken McPeak has ever won an Eclipse Award, has he?
I don't think he has.
That's surprising.
I don't know of any. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very surprising for a guy like Ken McPeak. But let's see.
He's had a deserving year. He definitely has had a deserving year.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Well done, Ken McPeak. That's one hell of an accomplishment at Churchill Downs. We'll bring back that segment with Nick Zito next week, as we do every week here on I Ask, They Answer. We come to one final topic before Dale and Tim wrap things up with their final point of the week. And This one involves the New York Racing Association. NYRA released their 2025 racing schedule this past week. It features 200 days of racing, with roughly 25% of those days being held at Saratoga. This includes the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival and a new 4th of July Racing Festival, July 3rd through the 6th. All of those taking place in upstate New York. Timmy, do you like the additional dates at Saratoga, or is this starting to get to be too much of a good thing?
I don't like it. Saratoga's always been, near and dear to my heart, and it's always been just a place that is, known for just being special. It's different from any other place around the country. Last year when they brought the Belmont Stakes up here, and I got it, they couldn't run it at Belmont Park because they're putting a new Belmont Park in. But it seemed like after the Belmont Stakes Festival and when they brought the Saratoga meet back in July, it just didn't seem to have the same buzz that it had leading up to it in years prior. I think that's because they already had the Belmont there. And now you're going to run the July 4th festival up there. And I just think that once the actual 40-day meet starts, it's going to be, oh, hum, we've already been there, started doing this. And it's not going to have the pizzazz and the appeal that it usually does. So I understand why NYRA's doing it. They run that festival at Aqueduct last year, and you're going to make a lot more money at Saratoga than you are at downstate. But it's just it just seems like it's going to be too much, and I just hope it doesn't start to really destroy Saratoga for what it's always been so special.
Yeah, I love Saratoga too. The more time you're there, the better for me. But let's don't milk it dry. Be careful what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like expansion in any professional sport, right? It seems like the product gets watered down, and I think that's maybe what I'm most afraid of, is that everything just kind of gets watered down. It doesn't become as special. Tim, you used that word. It doesn't become as special as it's always been.
It would be like making I Ask the Answer an hour show.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Trust me.
They all want it. Sure they do. Your mother does. Your mother would.
Yeah, she absolutely does. She can't get enough of you two. She won't listen to any other part of the show, but she tunes in at 10:30 every Saturday morning to make sure she hears Dale and Tim.
Well, we love that.
I'm going to tell you something that happens every week during our show, and if probably people hear it. For 3 years, we've done the show at the exact same time. It is guaranteed that Tammy will at least call me once, probably twice during that half-hour period, and you can all hear my phone beeping and her beeping in when and it happens every week. It's something very pressing, I'm sure.
Just because he's the presidente now, his head is getting bigger and bigger, and do not encourage him because it's getting big.
My goodness.
She just happened to walk in as I had a chance to tell y'all what happened with my phone keeping on beeping.
A live look in from Tammy Fox. Impressed.
Yeah, she chimed in pretty good.
Wow. I think she should be doing this show every week with us.
Yeah, she doesn't know. My head's been big since I won the Eclipse Award. It didn't have anything to do with becoming president of HBPA.
We're going to talk more about that in just a minute because we've come to the end of the show. We're ready to wrap things up, and that means that Dale and Tim get to make their final point of the week. Timmy, why don't you take it first, and then we'll throw it to El Presidente.
Well, today is the running of the Cigar Mile at Aqueduct, the Grade 2 Cigar Mile. It's a really good edition of the Cigar Mile this year. With the likes of Post-Time Senior Buscador, Bookham Dano, Mulligan, Locked. I think it's time for the American Graded Stakes Committee to move it back to a Grade 1 where it belongs. This is the second year it's been a Grade 2, and that's criminal in my mind. I know there's been a few down years, but this is a race that should always be a Grade 1.
I agree. Don't ship those horse races backwards. Yeah, I am going to say I have taken over as HBPA president at Kentucky HBPA this week. I've been the vice president on the board for over 30 years. I want to thank Rick Howes for the job he's done. He's got us in good position. He's handed it off in good shape. It's It's not going to be a difficult thing. Not having to fix anything. He gave it to me in a good shape, and I appreciate the votes I got, and hopefully I can do as good a job as he did. And with that being said, I'm going to take my little woman for a walk on the beach. Make sure you
I
got
love
the
it.
Secret Service with you. Yeah.
Yeah, don't let that head get too big, Dale.
Right.
All the best, my friend. Timmy, all the
right,
best.
guys.
We're going to do this all over again next Saturday morning, guys.
Talk to you next week.
All right, you got it. If you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim discuss, email that topic to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net. We will get that worked into the show going forward so that you get a chance to ask the questions, and they will answer your questions. And you can also post those on our social media pages at HRRN on X and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. I Ask They Answer is presented by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program, and the College of Business. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk. The National HBPA has a long-standing mission through member benefits of supporting and promoting programs, along with entities that provide general benevolence and other beneficial programs for our affiliates and members. The National HBPA proudly provides a national program in place to protect your assets in case of an injury or damage to property arising from your racing operation, with our partner Kevin Lavin at Sterling Thompson Equine. Each member of the National HBPA and its affiliates are eligible to be covered for liability claims arising from injuries to non-employee participants and contractual liability, and premises and operations liability coverage for all equine operations, including breeding, boarding, training, and racing. For more information, contact Logan with Sterling Thompson Equine at 502-585-3277 or Eric Hamelback with the National HBPA at 859-259-0451.
Hi there, it's Scott from Pentatonics. So from the beginning of our journey in music, the foundation has been music education. It's so incredibly important that we continue to show kids the importance of music in our schools, in our homes, and even in the car. Music is such a powerful expression of emotion and individuality, and we are responsible for keeping the love for music alive. This message is courtesy of the United States Air Force.
I'm William Shatner. I've been around a long time, but I'm truly humbled when I see the real battles our brave, paralyzed veterans have faced defending our freedom. And when they come home.
I had just come home from serving over in Germany. Next thing I know, it was 3 weeks later. I was paralyzed.
While parachuting with my platoon, my parachute didn't open, and I broke my neck. It left me paralyzed for the rest of my life.
I was on a routine patrol, and we were in the desert of Kuwait, and the vehicle flipped and landed on top of me, which left me paralyzed from the waist down.
Okay, folks, this is heroism. That's why I'm proud to support Paralyzed Veterans of America, because they've kept their promise to never leave a fallen soldier behind. A roof over their heads, accessible homes, cars, jobs, benefits.
PVA has brought me back to life.
Show them their sacrifice hasn't been in vain. Go to PVA.org to learn how you can make a difference.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, don't forget the December issue of Blood Horse Magazine features 150-plus pages. It includes several special features, including All in the Family, which is a neat story on former jockey Robbie Davis, who has given the leg up to 3 of his children, who have all followed in Dad's footsteps. It's pretty cool. That's by Bob Ehalt, and it's all part of the December issue of Blood Horse. You can download a copy now from the Blood Horse Magazine app via the App Store or Google Play, or subscribe today and receive a 2025 Blood Horse calendar, which is a $24.95 value, and that's absolutely free. All you have to do is go to bloodhorse.com/winter special. That is bloodhorse.com/winter special. You know, I was going to ask Dale at the end of I Ask They Answer what was more special to him this year, the bigger moment? Would it have been winning a race like the Ed Brown Stakes that we talked about? Was it being elected president of the HBPA or defending his title in the Showdown 3 competition that we had, which I know he would have picked that up and run with it. But how great was that with Tammy jumping in there at the end and making sure that she emphasized, don't let his head get too big. Now he's got a horse that could be on the Derby trail. He's the defending champion in the Showdown. He's the president. We have to keep ourselves cognizant of that with Dale Romans. No, I'm just kidding. He's fantastic and one of the true good guys in life and in the sport of thoroughbred racing. And that fact that he is now going to be president of the Kentucky HBPA, I think, is a wonderful choice. He mentioned his predecessor, Rick Hiles, and Rick kind of laid the groundwork for a lot of things that Dale will look to build upon now. So he'll hit the ground running, and I think he is the perfect choice for that particular office, if you will. All right, big day coming up at Aqueduct. We've talked a lot about that throughout the program here this morning. My thanks to all of our guests for making this show possible. My thanks to Ashley Anderson for joining us for the TwinSpires Triple Play, Kurt Becker for that Stroll Through Racing History, Frosty the Snowman, and I Ask They Answer with Dale and Tim. Keep your votes coming. Who's going to win the Cigar Mile? Keep the poll question rolling here at HRN on X and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. My thanks to my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studios, and to Chauncey for once again handling all of our social media. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks to all of you for tuning in here this morning. We got the Browns coming to town. We'll handle them. Go Steelers.